Hello and welcome to Spotlight, the official podcast of GRAPPL. I'm JP.
I'm Gareth.
And I'm Matty.
And as you can tell, I'm hosting it. So it appears to say that we were the official podcast of GRAPPL, which I'm not sure, like Gareth, that feels like it's controversial territory to go into almost straight away at this point. But yeah, we don't have Benno this week, lads. So this could easily go well and truly off the rails. It feels like we're almost there already. But how are we?
It feels like the unofficial podcast of GRAPPL with no Benno.
No glue.
This is like some bootleg version from down the back of this one.
It is, isn't it?
JP,
absolutely.
If that off the rails pre-show is anything to go by, mate, it could be a wild ride tonight.
It really could be, because the pre-show was I mean, it was a wacky one. I mean, I thought it was a cracking scran of the week, heavy on the football talk. We obviously had a lot of you lads happy after the Carabao Cup, and obviously Matty, you're going to be in good form all round. It's all coming up roses, as video viewers can see behind me as well. It's good times, mate.
Oh, JP, it's been a good weekend. I've enjoyed this weekend a lot. And early morning WWE pay-per-view. I could take with more of them instead of staying up till all hours watching it. And then Big Jürgen's kids brought the cup home. So what else? There's nothing else to be happy about. JP, brilliant.
What is that behind you, JP? Is it dancing on ice or something like that? There's so much. Is that a big empty ice? There's just a lot of empty-looking space behind you there. What is it?
We'll get into this later on in a little bit, because
you better stick around for that, Gareth. Now.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have to stick around for that. But I mean, actually, to get all kind of business out of the way, the big stuff, Gareth, we've got your dealer's choice reveal to come. That's the thing that you need to drop. That I don't think we didn't try and go into it on the pre-show. We did a good job of avoiding that, mate. But no. It's time for that announcement, Gareth. Are you ready, mate?
Time for that announcement. Time for the big reveal. Yeah. Ready for this. I said I'd had a few ideas along the way, but I've locked it in about a fortnight ago and was like, yeah, this feels like the route that we go in. And if you remember hark back in time, the very first Deep Cut show was a Deep Cut show that I did. That was the Rise and Fall of Progress. So I'm reclaiming Deep Cut. It's sort of it's gone in a few different ways along the way, with lots of different matches and things along the way. And it started trying to be a bit more of a analytical show, a bit more of a thought piece show sort of thing. So I'm taking it back to its roots. And I know we're not fully in WrestleMania season, but as we're very close to WrestleMania season, I thought I'd tie it into that, as we've got the one of the biggest stars going into WrestleMania is Cody Rhodes. So what I've done is put together a 3-hour playlist here. You've got one match in that time, but what we're going to be doing is doing a deep cut on Cody Rhodes in AEW, start to end, and just doing a good deep cut and looking at Cody's run from start to end there as he leaves. So there's there's one match that I've painstakingly gone through and picked out promos and just ends of like match highlights and finishes and things like that, promo videos and stuff along the way. But very much looking at it and positioning it along the lines of what might have been, really, I suppose, as you look at it now, as you look at his going into WrestleMania and headlining it. And we had a lad there who went out with a bit of a whimper at the end of his AEW run, despite being so prominent at the start of it. So let's explore the full journey in a lot of detail and have that debate.
That's a cracking choice, Gareth. I've always wanted to see what Cody was like on the Indies. So that's a good one for me to go in there. I don't know. In all seriousness, that's cracking. And as Platt said there, all 327 feuds as well, Gareth. That's a good. No, it's a very good choice, mate. It's good to go and see back at the promos that, like, obviously I remember some of his all-time promos from AEW. Really, it'll be good to go back and actually listen to them fully again. And yeah, it's a cracking choice, mate. Cracking choice.
Mate, it completely caught me. I mean, the idea of doing something modern, a man of your age, i.e. my age, doing that seems like that's wild talk, isn't it? It makes me worry for you. But no, I think it's an absolute belting choice. because it just, like you say, what could have been going into the Cody-verse, as Chris mentions there in the chat, the story of Cody ending racism, which, brilliant job.
Is the list complete, Gareth? Is it all ready to send over?
It's all ready to send over and go. So so it's like I say, I think it's about 167 minutes runtime, start to end. The one match on the list, it's just the Eddie Kingston match is the only match that's in full on the list. I have put match links for the other stuff, so you've got like the real sickos there can sit and watch the full Dustin match, or watch the full Sammy Guevara match, or the Brody Lee dog collar match and things like that. So the links are there to watch them in full. But I didn't want it to be about the matches. I wanted it to be about the angles and the stories and the promos and the way that he was booked, and then almost like the thought process behind a lot of the decision making and things like that. So it's a bit more of a discussion and a debate start to end rather than that. But you're getting excited there, Matty, when I talked about WrestleMania being around the corner and a big star from WrestleMania and stuff. I think I was going to do a face turn on you there.
I know. That's not coming anytime soon, is it? But no, it is. It's a cracking. And as JP alluded to there, something recent, JP, like something like that's not very old as well. So it's a great choice, Gareth, and the people in the chat seem to be excited as well.
Exactly.
It's new, Matty. It started half a decade ago.
It's completely fucked, isn't it? It really is, though.
It's gone, mate. Absolutely fucking gone. The game has well and truly gone at that stage. That's an absolutely belting choice as well, and something contemporary to end on, because if I can almost take it in a slight kind of like Dieter, we recorded a show, the third edition of Dealer's Choice. You did my one where I did make you do your fucking homework. It's like, no, we're sitting down, we're watching the serious film tonight. That's not going to be enjoyable. And as we reviewed, we did a flashback and did AAA and the IWC. No, not that one. When Worlds Collide. So, which we ended up doing the show on that, which I think we have some controversial opinions already on this. I think there's some people who may find it like kind of, is it heresy that we get into on there as well? But I mean, I absolutely loved recording it. I don't know. In terms of watching it, I tell you, it's an experience as much as anything. What did you lads make of that? Did you enjoy that one?
Well, I love a bit of lucha libre.
I'll let you go first, Gareth. Polite.
Yeah. No, it was a card of historical significance, wasn't it? That's the big positive that we can say about that. It's one of those
box ticked.
It goes down in the annals of history, that one, and the influence that it had on the wrestling industry for the next 5 years and things like that. Does it?
I made you watch Citizen Kane, lads.
Yeah. No rosebuds here, mate.
There isn't. No, there isn't. It's just like, it's not really great. This is it.
You know what the best part about it was, JP? Like before we recorded on Sunday, I text Gareth and I said, have you watched some of this show yet, Gareth? And he went, I've only watched a couple of matches. I said, kind of nudging him, like, what do you think? I said, I don't think I was a bit scared, JP, to give me forward. And Gareth backed me up straight away, didn't you? On the personal chat, and I was like, nice one, mate. I'll let you go for it. Honestly, it was just, as Gareth said, in all seriousness, it is a historical show, JP. You've got to see it. If you're a wrestling fan, I think it's one you've got to see for that. And as you say, if you were transported back to that time when you first seen it, then you'd be like, your mind would be blown. But it just honestly doesn't hold up at all. There's so many sloppiness. But as I said on the show, like, is that Lucha's charm, JP? You got to expect a bit of sloppiness and stuff like that. It's, but as we said as well, was it when the Lucha guys like joined the WCW and WWE and stuff that they took that style, which is obviously what they were learned in, and like crafted it, meshed it together with that style, what everyone else is familiar with, and that's what we think of it. And it's just one of them. It wasn't good. Like I'm trying to be positive here, but it wasn't good. But You know, it was interesting to see the characters on there, JP, like your Tito Santana's, your Luis Spicoli's, and a very young Rey Mysterio, of course, and obviously Eddie Guerrero and his tag team. So it's got a good cast of characters on there. And a big Charles in the main event, JP.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Big Charlie in his best ever match, which again feels like it's damning with faint praise. But I mean, if you do want to hear all of that show and the rest of Dealer's Choice, which has been an absolute kind of like belting month that we've had so far, and in terms of like the other shows, because obviously before then we had like Hollywood Rock from yourself, a more prescient one we'd had from there, as well as Big Match Jim, which was just phenomenal about the best matches of the Ultimate Warrior. So to go from Ultimate Warrior, Hollywood Rock to When Worlds Collide and Cody Rhodes in AEW, like that's an eclectic mix.
That's what it's all about, JP. What it's all about.
The Rock, the Rock, the Ultimate Warrior, Conan, and Cody. Like, four lads. in Conan's mind, they're all beneath him anyway.
Oh, 100%. Don't you ask him? He's the biggest star out of them.
He's the Ultimate Warrior of Mexico, mate, is what he is, and he's certainly going for the look as well, as we talk about there for the main event. But we've got all of that good stuff on patreon.com/grapple, and also go to our YouTube if you want to become a member there. We go to youtube.com/@grapple. There you go. It's got Dealer's Choice sorted, so that's we're going to be getting that out next later on this week. But yeah, we haven't had a DM from Conan, as Andy asks there in the chat. Yeah, I'd hope so. I'd be severely disappointed if I don't get another one of those. I think that was one of the highlights of that. That's like proper. It's like a Ribera jacket for any podcaster. Is to get a DM from Conan. I reckon. So now, obviously, for this week, we've got like. And this is the problem with me hosting on here. It feels like almost the format that I put together today. We're sort of moving it all a bit around a bit because we've all seen kind of like some disparate things. So obviously we've had the backdrop here. It's a big show, but we're going to start off with Collision, which feels like the place to go to because Gareth, obviously you're that is the show that you've seen this week. I'm kind of fascinated to know what you make of it. I know, Matty, you haven't seen Collision. Is that right?
Dynamite was enough for me this week, JP. And that was because I was on the weekend show. But
that's pushing you, mate, wasn't it? Yes. And what a brilliant job you did as well. Well, getting into the vital topic of bean juice. Which
thank you.
I
bring to these shows, JP. Sorry.
And I tell you what, Sarah will be right there with you on that one, Matty. Fucking the beans chat. Do an hour with you in the boozer there about
top lash.
But yeah, Collision, mate. The big show of the weekend. Getting top billing. Nice to see.
Benno's not even here.
Thing is, and I think we might well get round to it. Is there an argument for this being the show of the weekend? Of all of the stuff that we end up talking about this week, was an episode of Collision where I tell you what, Matty, I must confess, I didn't hear any lads shouting out for getting extra pints at the bar or some sambucas to bring back over. Sadly, there were people there in attendance from what I saw.
Okay.
But, we'll just say 2,500 and sort of split the fucking difference, I reckon. For the rest of that. But no, they had Collision. I mean, Gareth, because we don't often get to, we tend to hear most of the time you're on is for those big kind of AEW pay-per-views, and we're in the run-up to this as well. So you're in, we've got pay-per-view coming up next weekend. You're completely up to date. Is that right now at this stage with everything AEW?
Correct. Yeah. I just once Benno wasn't available today, I managed to sneak in Rampage and Collision there today and get myself up to speed.
Rampage.
Don't forget about Rampage. Never miss a Rampage.
He's a completist, JP. He's got to do it.
What happened on Rampage? He
Jeff
says
Hardy
the
on
man
there.
who does wrestling podcasts.
Well, have you not been following the old Ruby Soho story, love interest storyline? It's it's an integral part of my week, catching up on that one. So I was delighted to see the next steps taking place with that. But as usual with Rampage, just a nice tight little show there with not a not a shit ton happening, but I think on the quiet it's been all right. You had the progression of the Jackson storyline happening this Friday on that one as they went up against Cappuccino Jones. Yeah, that was
That's brilliant.
That was Matthew and Nicholas been those, which I'm not buying into as yet. I think it's slightly improved along the way, ever so slightly, but I'm still not buying that yet. But no, just a nice easy watch that one. Not really anything to write home about, but it was more about Collision this week, and I thought that was a fucking really good show. And if you talk about kind of like building a bit of momentum going into a pay-per-view, it just felt like over the last week they have built a little bit more. I know when I was on last week, it was a bit hit and run kind of thing because we were just doing the dealer's choice reveal and then some quick opinions. I think it's been okay, like AEW for the last sort of like couple of months. Like it's in that sort of fine territory of consistently kind of like a 6.5, 7 out of 10 kind of thing. I don't think it's been something that's been making you like, waking up and been like, I've got to watch it today sort of thing. But I think on the quiet, just, retaining a bit of consistent booker and having like some, decent actual wrestling matches out there on the show as well. Again, without it being something to write home about too much. But I think the build into the pay-per-view, as you turn around and you look at the matches that have been lined up for the pay-per-view, all looking good, all logical. Definitely some stuff there that looks like it's something that you want to watch. Which again, I think there's been a string of pay-per-views maybe where you've looked at stuff and been like, not that interested in that, not sure I want to watch that and things, or it's a bit light and maybe just been like a couple of matches having a bit more juice about them. It feels like something a bit different really with this one, and collision up towards that. Have you seen it, JP?
I did, and kind of like you, I got round. Well, it wasn't something that I kind of like because there was so much other stuff on. Like just generally this weekend, like between all of the crazy amount of sport and everything else, and watching When Worlds Collide, it was like bloody hell. There was a lot to try and fit in this week, but I managed to see it kind of like this evening. And I was just so pleasant. I mean, I've got strong thoughts about some of the other stuff we're going to end up talking about. Probably not the bit that Matty's maybe expecting, but like some seriously like strong thoughts about those. So watching something like Collision felt like a wonderful palate cleanser before this show, because I'm kind of in general agreement with you. I mean, I find whenever I end up talking about Collision in the main, I enjoy it. Like as an easy show to watch that is professionally made and isn't very OTT. And whether it's the dynamic of the commentators, I kind of don't mind. Like I've gotten used to that in terms of like, I know people will, I don't mind Nigel, for example. And dare I say it, I think Kevin Kelly's all right for the job that he has to do. Like, and it kind of easily sort of passes the time. But then there's always something each week that surprises me. Like that opening match between Powerhouse Hobbs and Sammy Guevara, which I thought was absolutely cracking. And I hadn't expected that. Obviously, the talk about it was Bryan Danielson, Jun Akiyama going into this match. But I think, I wanted to kind of make sure of mentioning that first, because I was like, that was a match that I had no expectation for and found myself getting really into. It was a no DQ match. So Sammy Guevara could go absolutely batshit. This is the role he's kind of built for. I like me some Powerhouse Hobbs. I always have done. When he was even an enhancement talent, he looked like he looked the part.
Him, JP. Always.
I've always liked him. I think he always looked the part, and I go, that's half the battle. Is he's got that there. And here, I thought in this match, I thought they had some like kind of crazy big spots, whether it be the kind of senton off the top of the ladder in the ring through to the tables on the outside. like absolute batshit spots, like fair whack a table stuff, and it brought me back into it. I just wish, in some ways, it's just Powerhouse Hobbs by himself, no managers, nothing else to distract from him, and I reckon I'd just be in him. He just doesn't say a fucking word. He just goes out and kills people. Let's just try that above all else. But I really I thought that was a cracking match to start the show off with.
Oh, 100%, mate, because it was one of those where, like, when I saw that was opening the show, I was like, what, this already kind of thing? Because it only felt like that sort of, they did a bit of an angle, I think, last week on something, didn't there? So it was sort of like quite a slow build. Yeah. Sort of quite a quick build to this match. But fucking hell, I had the time of my life watching it. I sort of started off with not much enthusiasm, and I was just absolutely just engaged with it for 20 minutes. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I thought Guevara looked outstanding in this match. I think he got the crowd were proper connected with him in this match as well, and seemed to be like right behind him to the extent that I was looking at it and thinking, God, are we in Texas here or something like this? Is it like hometown crowd behind him? But it wasn't. So so I thought that was brilliant. But the like you say, some of the stuff there, it was just really hard hitting, and as well when you've got a big lad like Hobbs and you've got someone like Sammy Guevara, both laying it into each other, that fucking that spine buster spot by Hobbs through the double tables kind of thing. That looked fucking great. That was as cool as fuck, and that's what you just want him out there doing, isn't it? Just spamming fucking big power moves, big stuff on people, because he looks like an absolute killer on it. They had the spot with the gimmick bottles that Sammy was hitting him with and things like that, but it just had a bit of fucking needle about it, this match, and I was fucking right in for it. I really enjoyed it, and I think when you say about the formula of Collision, it felt a bit in the early days, it felt a bit kind of end heavy kind of thing. There was too much time towards the last match or that was going into it. Whereas I think they've got this nice structure here of just bookending it with two sort of feature things. And then in the middle, using a few squash matches and things like that as well, just to get wins, get people to build a bit of character and people to just get finishes over with the crowd and stuff. I think it's been, really, really beneficial from that point of view as well, having just some short matches that can be quite sort of rapid with those. I think it's worked really well, and on the flip side of that, obviously the big one that people will be talking about is the Danielson Jun Akiyama match, and
no idea, mate. Never heard of him. Who is he?
Do you need a promo package to explain him in full detail? Bit of 40 years of backstory and things like that, just so the casual fan isn't lost in terms of channel over.
If he could call, that'd be really handy. Just to give me just a full career bio, just to let me know exactly who he is and everything he's achieved in wrestling. That'd be handy. That'd be great.
But again, that was a match where, while I'm not going to. Again, you're not going to fucking sing to the hills about that match kind of thing, as it was just a very, very good, strong, technical match that was on telly. And I think the main thing that I was thinking of while I was watching this was thank God AEW exists, because without AEW, you ain't getting a match like this just on primetime TV. There's no way the WWE is just going to randomly throw a match like this on SmackDown one week or something like that. It just ain't happening stylistically. Just bringing in some legendary figure just for a one-shot deal kind of thing and playing him into a main storyline.
Jump into that fact.
It ain't, though, is it, Matty?
I've always respected Gareth, even the shot he's been taking at me lately, JP. I still respect him, so I'll let him finish.
But that's it.
No, you're right, though. You're right.
The WWE ain't going to do that. It's not their ballpark. It's not what they want to be doing. It's not what WWE's fans want to be doing. But this is where things like this are why AEW exist in the first place. It was this idea that this almost harks back to your old WCW days, where somebody would come in and just work a couple of shots from Japan or something like that, and even if it was a Vader or a Stan Hansen before they were signed properly, just bringing him in for a short run and just helping establish a storyline or get somebody over or things like that. And they used Jun Akiyama perfectly here for the Danielson Eddie Kingston feud, and especially everything that went into it at the end with the, Danielson not respecting Eddie Kingston and saying he's not going to shake his hand, and that's what the match at Revolution all been about, this show of respect. And if Kingston beats him, getting the shake of the hand from Danielson and stuff. So then to the way that they work that, where Danielson's smiling as he shakes Akiyama's hands and then like giving him the middle finger at the end, and then Akiyama not being happy with that show of disrespect. So Danielson apologising and shaking his hand, but then kicking him in the nuts and setting off the brawl at the end kind of thing. Wrestling, just brilliant, perfect, simple, easy wrestling 101, stuff like that. And I thought it was executed to perfection, with that one. Like all it did as a 20-minute, 25-minute match and sort of angle just got me more excited about watching Eddie Kingston against Bryan Danielson this weekend. So again, served its purpose there.
Did a terrible rating, I have to say. In total, like he did 385,000, apparently up against NBA competition for that. But I mean, I jest, because the way I think you always have to look at it is you can't view ratings in that kind of isolation. It's like you put on good TV, eventually what you kind of always hope that it finds its audience. But I would agree with you for like the main. I mean, I think there would have been a point in time where they would have given them an extra 10 minutes, and I think that would have been too much. And instead, and Akiyama is someone who still has like the kind of like is still able to go, basically. And we'll talk about the Revolution cards like in a few minutes as well. Like I think this has been like a really like just the idea of being, like you say, being able to have Jun Akiyama, like that's a part of its USP for AEW, being able to do that as well. So yeah, I'd be I like this structure. You have those two kind of big matches in there as well. I mean, in terms of the other stuff that kind of happened on the show, there was, like you say, a couple of like squash matches. We had to have Brian Keith on there because that's just seems to be every bit of AEW TV I watch. That man is on. Fuck me, they're all over him, aren't they? And against Malachi Black. Can you guess who won?
I was going to say, he won a match, yeah. Because Malachi Black isn't doing jobs. He's the modern day Mil Mascaris in EJP. He doesn't do jobs. Doesn't do them.
Kept him strong though. Kept him strong in defeat.
He did.
Booked well.
I thought that was a solid match on there. They were doing stuff to further the kind of Mark Briscoe story as well, and like attacking like sort of with him attacking like Buddy Matthews and Brody King and stuff like that. So I'm sure that'll be on the pre-show for Revolution. It feels like it's the kind of place where he'll end up on there as well. I mean, I did want to mention, because she had a squash match, I'm very intrigued to know what do you make of Serena Deeb's new gimmick, because I know obviously you're a big fan, but back in the day, so Serena Deeb, in terms of her as a wrestler, and like often saying she was the highlight of the AEW women's division. What do you think? What do you think of her return as kind of serious face figure?
Nah, I'm always going to like Serena Deeb, like for the in-ring work. It's always she cares about the details. She cares about like that sort of like tight technical style and things like that, and she delivers on it. So again, I'm always going to enjoy that. Don't know if I'd be handing her a microphone too often based on the last couple of weeks, but I like the intention there where she's talking about the screen's not going black and white when she's wrestling, or the screen's not going to go black or something like that. All the lights aren't going to go out. She's focused on wrestling and bringing the wrestling back to all elite wrestling and stuff like that. So she's got me on board with lines like that. And then I just think she's somebody who, as there's been probably a bit of an evolution in terms of the talent in the women's division in AEW, there's actually different people there that she can come in and probably have a few fresh matchups with. And just at the stage of her career that she's at, she's obviously a very, very safe, experienced pair of hands that you can put in with the younger talent to help kick them on to the next level. So there's still a lot of fresh matchups there that they can go to with that. But equally, she's someone who you can elevate to a title match and be like credible in like a main event spot or something like that. If not on a pay-per-view, at least on like a Dynamite or a Collision or something like that. So yeah, definitely been enjoying it and interested to see where it goes. Obviously, another match that was on this card was the the 6-man with the Bang Bang Scissor Gang. I'm just intrigued to see if Matty's seen the famous spot. What you might have thoughts about that one?
You know what? When I first seen it, Gareth, I was like, "What the fuck was that?" But you know what? I've changed my mind every time I see it. JP, you've got to admire it though at the same time. What the fuck's he doing? It's amazing. What the fuck?
I still couldn't work out. I mean, I rewound it back when I had it on, like watching it on Triller TV. I was like, "What the fuck is this?" They've gone very weird. They were just like effectively like knockoff Viking Raiders, effectively, weren't they? Like whether they were Bear Country or the Iron Savages. Now they're singing songs about their tits. They just appear to have gone like a bit mad. As far as I don't quite understand it. Yeah, that's a thing. That kind of bump was crazy as well at the same.
He could have just rolled out the ring, though, couldn't he?
He really could have done.
But if you've got to buy it, though, honestly.
Michael Hickenbottom stuff, that.
Proper. Against Hogan.
Jim Neidhart in the WrestleMania 2 Battle Royal. Isn't it? It was just like, oh, there's the right fucking off I go. Just chucking himself out of there. Yeah. Just like, Michael selling for Hogan, as Chris mentions here in the chat. I mean, just to sort of, I suppose, go through, I mean, anything else particularly on the cards that you thought was outstanding, whether the FTR stuff? I mean, we had the promo with the BCC, setting up that on the undercard of Revolution. I mean, did you have many thoughts on the match with Shane Taylor Promotions?
Yeah, I mean, the match itself was, it was what it was, wasn't it? It was a 10-minute TV match. I'm always pleased to see Lee Moriarty getting a chance to be on television and work there. Yeah, again, there's unfortunately staring up at the lights once again. But I think when you look at things and you take a step back and you look at like FTR and the level that they're at, you look at like Moxley, you look at Claudio and stuff, the level they're at, it just feels like kind of like a natural and well-built sort of mini feud that they've done here. Obviously, they're all got to be in some kind of like holding pattern here, and it is something that there where the backstage interviews between them, the in-ring stuff, with the match, as well as then sort of some of the angles where there's been like brawling in the ring and things like that. It's been quickly set up and things like that, but it all feels like quite credible and it all feels like quite interesting. And it feels like if you're gonna have these lads who, you can't have them in the title picture always, or they can't always be, at that like next contender status or things like that. Just feels like a perfect use of these. You get four stars on the card, get them working with each other in something that looks like real and credible and things like that. And again, that's another match that I'm excited for, without being like the biggest FTR fan or Claudio match in the world. It's going to be a good one, that.
But that on Dynamite, that match, sorry, JP, that match on Dynamite they had, I loved it. And it's made me want to see this rematch at the pay-per-view. Obviously, there's going to be a gimmick added. Is it just a no time limit, or have they announced one yet, boys? No, there's going to be some sort of gimmick added, isn't he?
I don't know if there is one on there as well. I mean, I think it was just like telling them. It just said that it wasn't a satisfactory result, is what they said in the promo, as much as anything else. But it has been added to the card. I mean, I think obviously, I'll be talking about this on the weekend show, but you guys won't be on there with us. So, I mean, just to hear, like, in terms of what's the stuff that you're looking forward to that's on there? Gareth, go to you first.
Well, I mean, you look at it top to bottom, and like at the end of the day, while I haven't been like so hot on the sort of repackaging of the Jacksons, I'm loath to call them the Young Bucks, because I don't think they should have the title the Young Bucks linked to them at all in this current in this current gimmick. It should be something totally like moved away from. But I say they won me over slightly with the last couple, sort of going in the right direction. But just the fact of just been like Sting's last match, it's so important. It just feels like just a big a big thing that's been important part of my wrestling fandom from sort of day dot to up to today. Really, is just this omnipresent person. So the idea of it being his last match and it feeling like it is his actual last match sort of thing, which obviously is rare in wrestling. It does feel like you're getting this weird punctuation to lifetime of fandom, really, which is quite nice to see, given how many of your wrestling heroes flog themselves till they can barely move or die too early or things like that. It's very rare as a wrestling fan that you get to see something like this happen with a happy ending one way or the other. So that's front of mind for me when it comes to this weekend.
We all believe the stip, don't we? I think that's one of the times we go, no, this is his last match. This is this has been kind of carefully thought about. This has been a punctuation to a career. This run has been incredible. We'll look back on it, and I'm not going to worry about should he have put people over necessarily, because I just think he himself as a character has just no one expected this after the Seth Rollins match and the injury. We assumed that was it because we'd been already predisposed for these kind of finales to be shit. Say, Matty, they work in front of a proper crowd here. This is like 16,000 tickets they've sold here, mate. So
it's a pity you can't retire every week for Tony Khan then.
Well,
to be fair, that is even before I looked at the full card, I was going to watch this anyway to give, hopefully it's going to be a great ending. I mean, I think that they'll actually retain the belts and they should retire Sting should retire as one half of the champions, really. I think that's what they should do. But either way, you're going to get, a great ending, aren't you? Fitting an ending to Sting's career. But as we go up and down the card, like Tony Storm v. Deonna Purrazzo, been wanting to see that match since Deonna signed to the company. So really looking forward to that. Then you've got, obviously, the tag match I mentioned before with FTR. Even as a one-off showcase match, GP, I don't really know the build. It's Will Ospreay versus Takeshita. That's
just Don Callis saying it was going to be a match between them, and I'm assuming this is probably the Will Ospreay face turn.
It's going to be so good, though, isn't it? Let's be honest. That's going to be incredible.
It's just one of them matches. It's one of them matches where it just doesn't even matter. It's just put them to. It's like an indie show, isn't it? Basically, it's him against him. You've got 25 minutes. Just go out and do what you fucking want, kind of thing, and it's going to be fantastic. That's basically what it is, isn't it? And Christ, them two are just going to have an absolute banger. Obviously, mentioned there the Eddie Kingston, Bryan Danielson one. That's one that I'm just really, really looking forward to. You can see that they're both fucking loving this, what they've been putting into it in the last couple of weeks. You can see that Danielson's really enjoying what he's doing. And when Danielson's really enjoying what he's doing, that's when he always pulls out his best stuff, doesn't he? He's giving it, he's thinking about it a bit more. He's thinking about smaller details of things to work in and stuff like that. So you just know that there's going to be something here that's noteworthy or really clever or something like that that's worked into this match as well as the start to end work with it, sort of thing. So that's 100% something that I'm looking forward to there. It's funny, we haven't even talked about the world title match.
I was just about to say that. We haven't mentioned that match in the top matches at all.
I know we haven't. I mean, it feels like heresy to talk about Samoa Joe without Benno being on here as well. But I mean, this tells you the depth of this show, and I think this is one of the things where a lot of the criticism I had of AEW pay-per-views in 2023, just when they expanded the schedule of how many they had, it's just stuff that was being thrown on last minute. One thing you cannot complain is about build for this. And one thing you really can't complain about is the direction the world title has gone in since they've gotten rid of since they've taken it off MJF and he's been off TV. Just this general direction. I know I heard that you said about Samoa Joe being champion, Matty.
But he should lose it, JP. No, it's not fair.
Yeah.
To be fair to Joe, he shouldn't be world champion. And I think this pay-per-view, they should take it off him. He done his job, as in passing it over, hopefully, to Swerve Strickland. We've all said that at the end of last year, he should be the next champion. And even if he gets it in this freeway, JP, no matter what happens, he should just walk out as champion. And off to the races we go with Swerve. It's got to happen. I
don't know if the betting odds are out. That'll be the thing I'll have a look at, because it'll be interesting to see the direction, because I could see there is arguments all the way round, isn't there, for what you can do with it. And I always think that's part of you very rarely get that kind of drama where you can credibly leave the title on Joe. I know you may not agree with that, but you could do that because Swerve and Hangman kind of cost it for each other, furthering that. You can go to Hangman, he finally gets it, but he doesn't actually beat Swerve and he ends up as champion. And then you've got that double turn. or you can go with the guy who is hot and put it on Swerve. And that's justifiable in and of itself. And you can see, at least I can see all three, the reasoning behind all three. And I think that's the thing that adds the kind of levels of excitement. And I think I think when you go up and down the card, I mean, I think that's, for the most part, you go, some of these matches really could go in a number of different directions. And the fact that they've kind of built them, like the stuff about Christian Cage, Daniel Garcia, that I'm very intrigued by. Like, I enjoy Christian Cage. I've enjoyed what they've been doing primarily on Collision with Daniel Garcia as well. I think, like say about Eddie Kingston, Bryan Danielson. Like, I think there's stuff for that. And dare I say it, I think even Orange Cassidy, Roderick Strong. Like, I know I hate the stable. They're shits. Like, I
gone
don't
already
care.
though, JP. They mean nothing already, don't they? After that devil stuff and that.
They are, but like, it's Orange Cassidy on pay-per-view. And I think there's the fact where I've got enough kind of goodwill for him to think actually this could be something if they are given, say it's given time on this. It could be a feeling of overkill because there's a lot of potentially good stuff, and there's a lot of this stuff we're gonna have that feeling that there was a lot of potentially good stuff, but no one got the kind of time that they would have needed like on the undercard in order to kind of really shine. Or is this pay-per-view going to be going 5 hours?
I was about to say, JP, I think every match is going to be 20 plus, and that's where it'll be negative because they all blend into each other. That's what, hopefully it's not like that. Hopefully, as you say, just cut a few minutes off each match. Give one 12 minutes, give one 15, have a few over 20 to make them stand out. That has always been my thing with the pay-per-views, that they're just too long, and you can't, once you finish, they all just seem to blend in. But this, on the face of it though, like I said before and on the pre-show, to me, as a casual AEW fan, someone who dips in and out, this looks like a fresh pay-per-view. So I've got hopes for this one, JP. It looks like a fresh card. And I am, even, as I say, would have watched it for Sting anyway. But I'm really, actually looking forward to this pay-per-view.
And I think one of the things with this pay-per-view as well is that a lot of these matches I am looking at, and I can't 100% call what way some of the matches are going to go either, and what direction they're going in, which I always think that's like, anytime you're watching wrestling and you've got like an element of doubt in your mind of like what's going to come, that's like often the best, and because that's when you start to like speculate about things, say what you're talking about the three-way there in the main event for the world title. Like, I'm thinking of things there of like Joe landing the muscle buster and then like Swerve rolling him out of the way and getting the pin or something like that. So Swerve wins it, and then it wasn't even him who finished Hangman or such things. There's just so many different like variations and things that can go with that, with the whole belt and respect side of things going into like the Eddie Kingston Danielson stuff, like, intrigue about what way that's going to go, thinking about how they're going to send Sting out, like, what's good. Obviously there's the Flair stuff and stuff, so there's stuff in the background playing into there about like what's going to happen there, and you think about what people from Sting's past they're going to roll out and stuff like that on the day and things. There's all things like that happening as well, really. So all in all, it's like pay-per-view that genuinely like excited and looking forward to.
Are we getting the spot though, lads, where Sting's sons give the Bucks like the double Scorpion death drop or something? We've got to have something like that. We've got to have the lads running in and do it. That's got to happen. The Bucks will be well up for that, JP.
The tease of what could have been, like, for that. Suddenly turns out they're fucking great at wrestling, and they never wrestle a match. They just do some brilliant spots and go, no, that's enough. We've teased you with this, and then we're off. And well, obviously we'll be Benno will be with me previewing the show on the weekend show this Friday.
Said, JP, RoboCop Benetton.
Wow. That would be fucking awesome if we have all the people from Sting's past like turning up. Sid Luger will be there and the like. He'll be all sorts on there as well. There is a few things I want to kind of go into. I mean, obviously we've got like kind of Dynamite coming up this Wednesday in terms of the build up to that, which, I don't know how you guys necessarily feel about this card, but we've got a trios match, my favorite, Blackpool Combat Club of Bryan Danielson, John Moxley and Claudio against Eddie Kingston and FTR on there as well. We have Sting's final AEW Dynamite. It delivers a promo half as good as the one he did on this week's Dynamite. I think that's going to be great. It'll probably be a very different. I'm hoping they do some sort of ceremony for it. I think that could be kind of interesting. And then have a kind of dark wrestling angle afterwards where the Bucks end up bloodying him because it's wrestling and that's what happens on there as well. You're gonna have Will Ospreay appearing on there, so setting up obviously. If he's going to be doing a promo in the ring, he's going to be very bruv orientated. But I'd also be remiss because I'm not sure if you two are aware, but the new Dynamite logo apparently has been leaked, and according to an incredible source of mine, Benson Richards, this is what it is. Apparently, lads, what do you reckon? Are you excited? Brilliant, isn't it? Best logo you've ever seen, Matty. Do you reckon this tide has turned, mate? Million plus here.
I'm sure we're going to get that take 1,000 times over on social media, JP. But is it not just? I've just got the Canadian flag vibe straight away. Is that not what it's for? The Canadian tour? I don't know. Is that in the background? That's the first vibe I got anyway. Am I the only one who can see that? Gareth, save me.
I can see what you mean there. I can see what you mean.
I don't know. You're not excited, lads.
Can't say. That's not going to put asses on seats, is it? It looks really. Like I don't even know. It just looks so bland. Like to me, it just like meh, if that's like really.
Yes.
Like I think when you think back to the when you think back to the opening of like Dynamite and stuff, and it was all very fresh and vibrant and new and things like that, and then even like the way that they sort of like evolved the branding and stuff like that, it still sort of felt like quite modern. This just looks a bit dated and a bit bland and boring and dull to me. Like, I don't
for audio listeners, like this
Dr. Pepper,
Liam, very, very weird. Yep.
Gareth, you're good on the what is it? Where you can put Dr. Pepper there, mate. Make a logo tomorrow, please.
Obviously, video viewers, as Connor helpfully puts in the chat. So if you subscribe to the YouTube and become a video viewer, you'll see exactly what we're talking about on it. Otherwise, again, it is. It's Dr. Pepper as much as anything else on there. Clearly, come from the Canadian tour in terms of the Canadian flag in the background. It's all right. But
Dr. Pepper Parks.
And there is the title. What the hell are people on about there? But yeah, just to kind of sort of almost wrap up. There's a few kind of news notes. I'd be interested to see what you guys kind of think of this as well. I had to say, do you know who's been signed up by the company at this stage? We have Saraya announcing that Zack Knight is All Elite. This is what he binned off the Great British Tag League for.
I want to hear Benno's thoughts on that one, JP.
Wow, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
What I would say about him, in the times I saw him, he's in really good shape. Like he is. And it appears to be setting up a feud with him and Angelo Parker. Is that right, Gareth? Is that what
you're the Rampage guy, Gareth?
Yeah. It was that was I was going to say Paige. Saraya was really upset because she was looking to set Ruby Soho up with her brother, not with Angelo Parker. So yeah, bit of conflict there on Rampage.
It does sound good.
It's got you written all over this.
It really has.
This is a Matty storyline.
God,
but yeah, I mean, really, like fair fucks to the lad kind of thing. He's got himself in great shape. Yeah. He's been let down a few times along the way and stuff like that. But like really, is this where we're at? We need more bodies, kind of thing. Like just bizarre.
As Benno mentions there in the chat, he's a great defender, cracking run at Fulham. Interesting bringing him, and in some ways, if he put on a bit of bulk while he was at Fulham, he'd have been a great enforcer at the height he was at. Because he was a good 6'5", wasn't he, Zack?
6'7", I think he was that night.
He was. Hang on, we're talking. That's Kevin Francis / Ian Albandroid numbers we're talking about there. Oh, 6'7". To go back to that, so he apparently is signed. We did have, and I know Matty will be a fan of this one as well, a kind of an explanation from Tony Khan about why they run larger arenas.
I actually want to know, JP. Definitely.
Well, he says, and to quote him verbatim on this, it depends on the market and time. Bet it fucking does. That's my words, not his. A lot of times, those arenas have a lot of big advantages, like email lists and marketing. Gareth nodding his head quietly. No, he isn't. And their destination.
It's not working, is it?
it depends on the market and the timing. Certainly, bigger arenas do have a lot of advantages. They have a lot of sale contacts and really good marketing resources. Didn't really answer the question there, did he?
I was going to say, what is he on about?
What they've got is they've got loads of people that you can email to tell about it to not show up. So that's that which doesn't seem doesn't seem good business to me. That one, I think
they booked them like 8 to 12 months in advance, JP. Like we all think that they don't, because when it was hot, they obviously would want to book the arenas, and then all of a sudden, as we alluded to, was it earlier on, or was that on the pre-show? Like, they've just gone a bit colder, and maybe they are locked into these. Obviously, they can't change, JP, even in the 8 months to 12 months, but something's got to be done.
I wonder whether or not, I mean, in terms of dates, there's a few more things that have been announced. Obviously, there was talk we spoke about, it was one of the things I think brought up on the weekend show, and I brought up certainly on the news dump, which was about them they're doing Forbidden Door at Arthur Ashe, which makes sense if you're going to be using Arthur Ashe, and basically using their Court One, the Louis Armstrong arena as well, which everyone should come out to Louis Armstrong tunes as well.
You really should. Work for James Bond, JP.
That'd be wacky as fuck. You don't want to be telling a group of AEW lads they have all the time in the world, mate. That could go badly wrong, couldn't it? In there. But yeah, never really kind of explained. I put exclaimed in speech marks just to obviously illustrate the point that probably bollocks in there. We've got QT Marshall. He's back behind. He's in a VP role. Like, he's fucking falling upwards in there as well. He's still not planned to returning as an in-ring performer, which is a shame because they need business movers. And QT Marshall, as we all know, is going to be that man.
Ironically, I saw a photo of him today, and he's in the best shape of his life. And I was thinking, like, you've got yourself into the best shape of your life to not work in the ring. Like,
he'd be back soon enough. Come on, give it a few months. He'd be in the ring.
Well, with my dealer's choice, you'll be seeing a lot more about QT Marshall. So there you go. You can get your QT fix in ring in the next week.
That's the kind of synergy that he hopes to create as VP of AEW there. As well at the same time. And I've hired a new interviewer called Arcady Aura, which sounds like she should be, I don't know, like turn into a superhero and be against Batman or something along those lines. Don't know, stuff for indie promotions. They've got enough fucking telly. That's what I'd say. They really would do. And Lexi Nair feels like she's absolutely run ragged.
I was going to say, they might give Renee a segment off as well now. Just
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. Yeah, she is signed on there as well. And in terms of, that's pretty much. I don't know if you guys have got anything else to say for on AEW before we move on. It's all optimism. Looking forward to when we get round to reviewing Revolution. I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating stuff. Yeah, really, really intrigued.
See where they take it from there. That's the thing.
Yeah,
because I say, can they kick? That's the big thing for me, is can they kick this good, fine TV sort of 6 to 7, rated stuff on now from this pay-per-view? Because if they keep going through to the next pay-per-view cycle with just average TV that doesn't really give you a reason to definitely want to tune in and watch, then what are we doing really? So I think it does need something big here that's going to heat things up and lead into making the weekly TV a bit more compelling. To be honest, because that's where it needs to go. So at the end of the day, those TV ratings and attendances can't keep falling because it's got to stop somewhere, hasn't it? And fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Old Sasha Banks might have an impact in one way or another, and if they're putting good stuff on and around it, might claw a few back. But we'll see.
Yeah. Well, it's a nice link there. You talk about places where crowds are falling there, and there's a place where the crowds have been rising. Now, I don't know. Are you going to hang around for this bit to hear all the thoughts on Elimination Chamber, Gareth? Did you?
I might stay and listen as Matt is patiently sat and listen to the AEW stuff. I might hang around, listen, and maybe ask a few questions, maybe based on some of the headlines and things like that I've seen, and get the real answers from you, maybe Matty, if there's anything.
Okay. Or if I can give them, Gareth, I can't promise nothing, but I'll try my best, mate. I'll try my best.
Well, there's a place where the crowds aren't falling at all. I tell you, mate, and they were rising because apparently there was 50,000, which again, I think my immediate concern is I hear WWE saying attendance figure. I just assume it's to be lies until proven otherwise as well.
That'll never change, GP, to be fair. That'll never change.
They were down under. I was making a pitch that the opening song to this should really be Men at Work Down Under, because it just kind of like makes sense. Where they were given, you know, another stadium show. It's not the only stadium show they've run in Australia, is it, mate? They've done this before, wasn't it? With the global warming tour.
Yeah. In 2002, that one, JP. First one in 22 years. Well, they done thing, didn't they? Super Showdown. Remember when they first signed for the Saudi shows, but they used to do a few Australian shows as well. So I think it was Goldberg the Undertaker, the last one at Super Show. Maybe not the famous botch match with them too. I think that was in Australia, JP. I think that was the last one.
Saudi, wasn't it?
Or was that Saudi? Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'm getting the. It's
is that Freudian slip on your part? You're comparing it to a Saudi show. Is that the kind of vibe you got from it?
No, JP, no. Honestly, I've seen. Is that what we're going with first? What we've seen the headlines, JP, online? Because to be fair, like I've seen a lot of downplay on this show. I'm not saying this was the greatest show of all time, but I thought it was a really good show. Like, Gareth, I know you've seen these, and you probably would, if you watched it, you probably agree with the online consensus. But honestly, I thought this was probably one of the better pay-per-views that they've had since SummerSlam, being honest. And you know, the way you were saying before, Gareth, about like this Revolution card coming up is like you're in doubt with the results. Mm-hmm. This was the opposite. Like, everyone knew going into this who was going to win and who should win, and they did. But I thought that didn't matter. That didn't play into like why it wasn't good or not. And I thought that was like smart. I thought, you know what's going to happen. This is going the last pay-per-view before WrestleMania. You know, we're going to keep it what we know the Mania card's going to be, JP. So I thought from that aspect, it was good. And honestly, I've seen worse. We've said, JP, ever since SummerSlam, I've seen worse pay-per-views than they put on top to bottom than this. Maybe it was the fact of the 1 hour and 50 minutes, JP, that magical number. That should be on a t-shirt, you know, like after 316, Owen 316. It should be 1 hour 50 wrestling underneath. It's like, fucking hell, do these people haven't watched WWE in like how long? People just watch it just to fucking have a go. It's like, don't watch it. Just don't watch it if you're not asked about it.
It sounds really good to me, that if you watched the WWE pay-per-view and there was only 1 hour 50 of it.
There you go. Gotta take the positive side, the spin of it, mate. Jesus Christ! Do people not watch it? It's an entrance. It's a showbiz promotion. Did you not know? Do they want people to just walk out through a curtain, JP, within 2 minutes and not be that entertainment side? I don't get it.
The way I view this show, just in the main for it as well, is that this is them showing their might as a business entity. Like, because there wasn't that much stuff there was the 2 elimination chambers, but there wasn't really any of the top line, the big 4 sort of top line acts.
JP, can I cut you off? Sorry, but did you hear my thoughts on the weekend show regarding that? And a few people have seen on Twitter. Isn't that the sign of an ultra hot company where you can do a stadium show? You can have one of the hottest stars you feature on TV every week in Rhea Ripley, have a feel-good hometown main event moment. You don't have to rely on your big stars to be there because they're already booked in big matches at WrestleMania. Is that not the sign of a hot company, or is that just me talk out my ass? You know, what is that, JP? That is right for me. You know, and you had Cody and Seth on there. Okay, they didn't wrestle, but they were in a segment. You know, what do people want? I think that's the sign of if you can afford to do that, you're doing something right, aren't you? For me, anyway, that's just how I see it. So, I don't know. Sorry to cut you off, JP, mate.
No. And I'm going to tie into another thing that you were speaking about on the weekend, in terms of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Awards. This is why Nick Khan is down as Promoter of the Year. Because, like, how many matches were on this show?
4?
In total.
4 matches.
And then we had the pre-show match.
Yeah, pre-show match as well.
If you ask people there, like, was there anything great? No. Was there stuff that was very much let's just at times there was a lot of people who felt like they were just happy to have an in-canon pay-per-view event that at least had some kind of meaning. And my God, they let us know about Western Australia and places to go to there as well. Gareth's thinking they haven't got an NRL team, so why the fuck would I care? Like,
because JP, to be fair, when they first done the first Australia video, it was like, okay, I can see why they're doing it. Obviously, they paid for them to be there. That's part of the shtick. But they've done it 4 times. To be fair, even I like the third or fourth time was like, all right, I get it now. But the first 1 or 2 times, fairly.
Put yourself in the shoes there was Matt of an Aussie fan. If you're like, imagine if we went to fucking All Out at Wembley last year and they put on 4 matches and then fucking like, I don't know, CM Punk wasn't there and all you know, your big stars weren't there. Imagine how we'd feel knowing that you'd fucking paid for your ass for a ticket and then they've put this passable in canon like show or like out there, but like it's a bit of a fucking slap in the face for the Aussies, do you not think?
There's only Roman, Gareth, that wasn't on the show. We're not counting Rock, are we? Because let's be honest, he was never. He was on the leaked card before it changed. 3 SmackDowns, but let's take the Rock out of it, Gareth. There's only Roman Reigns that didn't appear on the show. Cody and Seth, once again, they didn't wrestle, but they were on the show. The fans got to see them. You got to see Cody challenging The Rock to a one-on-one match. I think that was a pretty big deal. You've got everyone else who's featured in 2 big Elimination Chamber matches going to WrestleMania. Like, I honestly don't see the problem. This isn't me in blind loyalty, Gareth. I've said the pay-per-views, JP, have come on after every pay-per-view, haven't I? After SummerSlam and said they were underwhelming to basically they were shit. This one, don't see one problem with it. I can get the tourist side with the videos. I can totally get it. I can even get the tag title match, people might say, was cold. It did get built up on TV, as in they won a title contenders little tournament to get there. Thought that match delivered as a put-together tag team title match. And the main event, which we'll get to in a minute, because I know I've seen people really down on that. But for the 2 chamber matches, JP, I thought they were 2 of the better chamber matches they've had in a while. I thought the men's ones was really good. You had a lot of story woven through it. You had Randy Orton, like people, obviously, Gareth, I think you'd appreciate his selling in this, mate. He was selling that back all fucking match. And to the point where you're thinking, is he actually injured here? Seriously, Gareth, it was such a good performance from Orton selling. And you got the finish where Logan Paul fucked Orton over, didn't he? And obviously your main man Drew got there to WrestleMania. But JP, honestly, and even the women's, Becky Lynch was always going to win. But you had Tiffany Stratton in there coming across like an absolute star. The fans absolutely loved her in Australia. They were chatting bullshit when she got pinned. That ticked the job. You're getting Tiffany over. And the rest of the women in there had a good performance. And then Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania to fight Rhea Ripley in a for me, a WrestleMania-worthy match. So honestly, I really don't see people's beef with this pay-per-view. It wasn't the greatest of all time, of course it wasn't. But I think it was fine. It was good.
For those American fans who had to watch pay-per-views at those kind of times,
felt our pain.
Finally felt our pain for it, and they weren't fucking happy. And I think Andy in the comments here is kind of like almost nailed what it is, which is it was a mid-level B show, but they just happened to have this in a stadium, and they could sell out the stadium by doing that. And I think both points can be true. And Connor had mentioned this in the chat as well. Like, I didn't watch this and become like, I wasn't like enthused by it. Like, I thought the Elimination Chambers were like, in ring, like clearly the highlight of the show, like above all else. And like I say, I think with the men's match, just in terms of setting up those smaller stories, playing on the story with Drew as well, I wasn't like it felt, I was just kind of like ambivalent. Because I kind of thought, well, I thought that this is what the show was going to be.
But JP, you know
and
what I
think
think
kind of was exactly like that. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean I enjoyed it, because it's a lot of it kind of isn't necessarily for me. But it was like the one thing that they did here is they just wanted to give you spectacle and show, look at us. We can do 50. We can just go to a market and do 50,000 for a B show.
But at the same time, JP, this isn't
did that.
your WrestleMania where your people who don't watch the week to weeks will come out the woodwork and watch, so you can present these big fights like your Cody and Roman. I'm getting it up here, lads. You got Roman and Cody set for Mania. Hopefully, The Rock's going to be there, so you get your casuals coming for that. This was one for watching the TV with your Judgment Day and the Newcastle Republic. This was all your mid-carders that are on telly every week, upper mid-carders, being in the chamber, ready to go to WrestleMania. This is your Nia Jax, all right? For someone coming in from the outside, seeing Nia Jax in the main event, people are going to be down on that. I can get it. But if you've watched the TV since Nia Jax has come back, love her or hate her, she's been built up unstoppable. She's beat Becky Lynch clean on telly, which earned this title shot, which you're getting Rhea Ripley in the main event, which people shit on WWE for how many years, 25 years, that they don't give your hometown person a fucking end of the show victory. You got that more. I think that near enough covered up for the last 20 years of them doing that, because Rhea Ripley got the feel-good moment and then some, mate. Got to be main event as well, with celebrating with all the family. Not one bad feel moment in sight. So I think it just ticked every box if you watch this show every week on TV. Honestly, but I can see people who don't follow it from the outside looking in going, well, it's like the analogy you said before, Gareth, about the Carling Cup final. If you see that and you think Liverpool fans are going wild because it's the Carabao Cup, no, watch the match and look how it unfolded. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. And
it wasn't a great show, though. And
I'm not saying it was. I'm not saying it's an all-time show. I'm not saying it's an amazing show. It was a fine to good show. It was better than some of the pay-per-views that they've been since SummerSlam, especially.
And there are legitimate criticisms of you've got 50 minutes between matches for a watching audience. That's a slog. That's hard. I didn't have to do that because I didn't watch it live. So I just caught up on it and I was able to fast forward through adverts. But if you're watching that live for 4.5 hours and you've got a 4-match main card and a hell of a lot of tourism going on there in there as well, the main Nia Jax is shit. Like, that's the thing. But the job was she had to beat someone who could just take the loss, and they could do that. So, like, I get the reasoning behind all of the stuff, all of the decisions for going there, all of the reasons for putting on, okay, we're giving them something in canon with the 2 chamber matches. They do set up a world title match in those senses, but with the split champions like that, that's a whole other debate for another time on it. I just kind of I was lucky that I was able to fast forward my way through them as much as anything else. But in terms of and I agree with you on the Tiffany Stratton point, just in terms of how she carries herself as much as anything else, I can kind of get whether she's a star. That remains to be seen because there's several high-level positions to go on there.
I think she's the next star, JP.
I don't think of people like Liv Morgan as a star, and people get very excited to see her.
She'd be a bigger star than Liv Morgan ever was or is.
And I just look, but I look like kind of maybe it's whether or not do they do the kind of what would be the last time that they've really done. I suppose with Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair, where they've put them into that kind of credible.
She'd be the next one
up there with Becky and Charlotte and the rest of it as well. I mean, we were saying about the Revolution card having, not having predictability. This was as much as the most predictable show. Yeah. I
don't think that's not a negative all the time, though. I think that's not at all, because the way they've done it as well with Drew winning the chamber is you're setting up we know if it's going to be Logan Paul versus Orton because he cost him. You've got the KO Logan Paul match they can go back with. So you're setting that up. And then even in the women's chamber, you had Bianca Belair, you had Stratton, you had Liv Morgan making it to the last. So you've got matches you can do there. And I think it was just honestly, this is why we're here, JP, and this is why we do this, opinions and stuff. I get it. But for me, this was far from the worst. I know what Benno saying in the chat, people's problem with the show is that it wasn't good. Well, that's fair enough, whatever. So I can't wait to what he says on the weekend show anyway. Let's see what spin he puts on it.
I think a lot of the shows they've done in the last few months haven't been good in the main. And let me be very clear. And I wouldn't say this is some sort of change. I think it just comes to the point where I wasn't expecting this to be good. So I in some ways, it's it was the show that I personally expected it to be. So there's nothing about it that had any surprise. I mean, which of the matches do you want to start off with, Matty? To go into bit. What was your match tonight?
I'd say the men's elimination chamber, JP. I'd say enjoy both chambers.
I've only got 5 fucking matches to pick from, so it's like pretty slim pickings.
But honestly, the men's chamber, honestly, JP, I thought the way they worked it as well, everyone, like there was a lot of good selling. It was more of a fight/struggle than your usual the chambers you get, which it should be in a chamber for me because the structure itself and you can find in that. I thought it had a lot of that going on, JP. And honestly, Randy Orton, like I haven't picked him up for a long time. That selling me throughout that match, honestly, was so good. Honestly, I thought it was he was really in pain a lot of that match, and he might have been. Who knows with his back and he's come from. But honestly, and even like the shot of the RKO, JP, where Logan Paul thinks he's got him, and he was just celebrating, and you just seen him come into it, JP. Stuff like that. Like, I loved that. Absolutely loved it. And even the finish where you thought Orton's got it, and then obviously the camera again, where he knocks him with the brass knuckles and drew it to Claymore. It's honestly loved it. Loved that match, JP. Honestly thought that was one of the better men's chambers they've done in a long time.
I think my only problem with that is that I almost feel like I've forgotten about every other men's chamber match outside of Shawn Michaels and the Brown Keks. Like that, and that might be my problem.
The Goldberg one, JP. The Goldberg one where Triple H squashed him at the end.
Oh, I was just angry at the end of that. And we're back to that, are we? This is the route we're going down. Like, I would say a match like this, I don't know. I mean, kind of enjoyable, and it's the sensible option to go with. And obviously, from a story perspective, this is very much like kind of clearly the Triple H. No, we've got this. We're doing this with Drew at the minute. They're going to play into him, no doubt, not having signed the contracts, and after he beats Seth Rollins at Mania, and that'll be the story we get.
But that ties into the Punk feud as well, doesn't it? That because Punk used to do that, didn't he? So that can tie in eventually to if Punk comes back. They could have a good little story with that. I didn't even piece that together, JP.
Particularly if they play on like, if they like to get all shooty on the promos, that
of course
that could be on there. I'm not a fan of going down a Logan Paul, Randy Orton direction. I think you know my thoughts on Randy Orton there.
But JP, as well. Being honest, I thought they were going back to the KO because obviously at the Rumble you had the DQ, and then you had them. Obviously, you had the good spots in the chamber where he was banging his head off the chamber, and Logan Paul was writing all remarks about KO and on the plexiglass, the bulletproof glass. No more, JP. It's the plexiglass now, isn't it? What a spear as well. Logan Paul took that spear through that like a champion, didn't he? He did. I forgot about that then for a minute. What a spear that was. But yeah, lost me saying a thought now, JP, with that spear. What was you saying, mate?
I don't know really what. Just in terms of the
Randy Orton,
Logan Paul direction.
Yeah. No, I think now, but JP, it looks like they might be going to a multi-man because I think KO needs a match. Randy Orton needs a match. Logan Paul needs a match. AJ Styles flew halfway across the world, as someone said, just to cost LA Knight. Are they getting the one-on-one at Mania, or are they going to be through into this US title match? We don't know. It looks like they're doing the same on Raw with Gunther as well, where you have Sami Zayn, Damian Priest challenging him. So I can see them one night doing the IC multi-man and the one night US, and I wouldn't do that. I'd rather have the two singles matches and then have your multi-mans for the number one contenderships, to be honest with you. But let's see what
genuine question, Matty. Like this isn't me like fucking poking. If they're having to do that with two multi-mans like that, with all this, is that just bad booking? Is that just like, have they just not put anything in place for these lads for the last
Gareth, I'll be honest,
couple of months that they're having to just throw them in together, like just to get them on the card?
With everything obviously that's gone on behind the scenes as well, and with the injuries, honestly, I was thinking this. Thought this around the Rumble, and then obviously after the injuries and stuff, this WrestleMania, I'm going to say, is not going to be a patch on last year's. It's not, even with your rematch with Roman and Cody, even with The Rock in there. Last year was honestly lightning in a bottle. They built it up so well from months out, and it was incredible. One of the greatest WrestleManias you'll ever see. I'll obviously be pumped near the time, Gareth, because it's WrestleMania. But I was keeping it to myself, but you've asked the question. I'm a bit down on it, mate. Seriously, going into it. Even though there's some big matches there, it's like you're saying before, the R-Truth stuff, guys. Like, Awesome Truth winning the tag belt at WrestleMania. Like, honestly, I can't accept that. I can't have that as a WWE fan even. And I know it's over in the buildings, JP. I can't get on board with that one.
Did you not laugh at him ending up in Vienna? wondering where everybody
JP,
was.
That's funny, yeah. That's whatever. That's our truth, and I love him. And I get he's getting his moment, but he shouldn't have been put in this storyline. And people, the counter argument will be it's over, and people enjoy it. JP, it's not for me at all. But Gareth, honestly, that's right. If they end up doing these multi-mans, then it has. And I know there's been, obviously, Brock's been took out of the equation. Punk's not there with his injury. There has been a few little notches what they didn't want. But if their answer is just for multi-mans, I agree with you totally, mate. It hasn't been fought well. And it should be singles matches for the titles, 100%. Let's wait and see.
I highly doubt it, though. I think what you said there about there being multi-mans is that feels like the kind of route they'll go down. Particularly because over 2 nights, what do they like to do? 8 matches on the card. They want to get as much like kind of shit in there at the same time. There's tag belts and obviously other things on there, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, this does feel like there was the chance, and we spoke about this at the Rumble, where they'd actually kind of built people up. But the problem is, like, they've done a job of building up their upper mid-carders, that their audience kind of likes them. The problem is that what you need LA Knight to have is actually a decent match. Probably the best and safest person to put him in there with is an AJ Styles.
Yeah.
To give him that kind of match where post-Mania he can come out and then challenge whoever's.
And they have been beefing JP since Styles come back. That has been built up since the minute he come back and turned on him with that clothesline. Styles playing this like tweener. This has been built up every week on SmackDown. They've not liked each other. That's fair enough. I'd rather that once again than a multi-man match, 100%. But this is the thing I think I've casually mentioned this on here to Benno as well. And what yourself, JP, you've said there about these faces getting built up, which is right. I don't think there's enough heels, JP. There's only Solo and Jimmy getting beaten like a drum, and your Judgment Days that you can play off all the time. And they're getting absolutely beaten into the ground. So they're protecting the
bloodline. Let's show this, mate. You should hate it.
JP, no, but I can accept it, JP, because they're going to get big time at WrestleMania, isn't it? And we're going to get the Usos one-on-one. Gareth, there's your big Mania match, mate, to look forward to.
Main event.
It won't be the main event. It won't be the main event.
No. Is it main event Jay or is it main event Jimmy? Which way around?
Main event Jay, you show. Come on.
Main event Jay.
He's got Gareth. I know Benno likes this stat. He's got 4 of the top 10 best-selling T-shirts on WWE.com. Every colour of his Yeet T-shirt is in the top 10, mate. There you go. Yeah. Selling more than Punk now.
Well, there's nothing says main event like having to put it in your name, is there?
Yeah, I know you love that one. You love that.
Because I would also say, I mean, I know it's been added to the card now, and with Drew winning it, which is obviously the sensible option from a booking perspective to go in. I'm not excited about him and Seth Rollins. I mean, I just hope he wins the title, which I know it might be like heresy. Trust me on this. As certainly the promo aspect, and that's kind of really, you know, the kind of the thing here. I've enjoyed the character of Drew McIntyre. I think the idea of watching him and Seth Rollins have a 20-minute plus match is not the kind of thing that I'm going to be like kind of getting on board.
I do enjoy their matches, though, to be fair. I think the last one they had was very good as well. And this one will be better because it's WrestleMania. They'll have a point to prove. And if you're going into the story, JP, Drew's got to win, hasn't he, really? Or then do you have it where he loses again? Like, obviously, last time he won the belt was no one was there, was it? You know what I mean? And he fails again. But I think he'll win. But you could have Damien cashing in on him, but he's a heel, isn't he? So
you want him as champion for when Punk comes back.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the other one as well. And you play the idea he's going to be leaving the company. Oh, we've already kind of booked it in our heads.
We have
as well.
That's how it should go as well. That.
You want him to win the belt and be the world champion and get signed so he doesn't show up on AEW, and then I don't have to watch him. With his bad dye job beard and hair.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it, JP.
Well, we had Drew. I mean, you know, we had Drew obviously winning the men's chamber match as well. I mean, I mean, if I'm giving it a star rating, I'm probably saying 3.5. I thought this was perfectly fine. I thought no one was made to look weak. It was like everyone got out of the chambers first, and God knows the synergy they did with having their WWE, was it 2K24 ratings up on screen, above each of the pods as well. And I was like, oh my God, we're gonna get used to this. That's the Nick Khan effect in kind of full
That's
flow.
like the FIFA stuff in it. You get on social media with the
Hey,
football.
I wouldn't like that. Fucking hell, should be going off a box.
God knows what rating they've gone and given her. I think they gave. Well, I mean, I don't know. I can't remember what they were necessarily for the women's match. I mean, supposed to go on to that, the other Elimination Chamber match. I mean, you said it really. I mean, it felt for me that the story primarily, it always looked like Becky Lynch was going to win. She was the bookies' favourite. I know you had Andy giving in the stats as well. I know Drew McIntyre, as Andy had said on the weekend show, was 16-1 on to win that. That wasn't a surprise. I think Becky Lynch was around the same, wasn't she, for her to win this. What did you think of the women's match in the main? Because I mean, I the only things I took out of it really for me were that Tiffany Stratton has something and is worth going with, but she's not alone in terms of their women's division. And is she going to be an actual star at that level? That's stuff that we'll have to kind of like necessarily wait and see. And then I also came out thinking that Bianca Belair could do with a heel turn, didn't she?
You know what?
I think
JP, I think, and I've seen a lot of people. I think the world's going crazy because everyone on social media seemed to be like having a go at Becky Lynch, and I a year ago I'd be joining in with them, but I've turned into the Becky Lynch defender because I thought she had a great end to 2023 from that Trish Cage match where they paid that off. That was one of honestly the most surprising matches of last year of how good that was. And then she went down to NXT. Big draw Becky, wasn't it, JP? Helped NXT beat AEW in the ratings. But now went down, Gareth, work with Stratton, had a few matches with Stratton, won the title, obviously done the job to the champion now in NXT. Work with like Indy Hartwell, so was working with the younger talent. And I think she's earned this right to go. And honestly, a year ago, I'd be saying, fucking hell, Becky Lynch again. But this is a fresh match, JP. They've never had this one on a big pay-per-view. It's a WrestleMania women's main event mega match for me. Rhea Ripley, one of the hottest stars in all of wrestling, let's be honest, at the minute. I think it's smart booking. And once again, though, the fans like Rhea, though, so I think they could be pro Rhea when we get to WrestleMania more than Becky, but it could be more split because Becky is still over, like, but no, I just don't see why people are down on Becky as much at the minute because she's went down and proved that she could have good matches with the younger talent as well. So yeah, I'm all for this match.
She definitely is what she was. I mean, for this one, I thought like it kind of it was better towards the end, but I did find myself like kind of, like Naomi, for example, is never, even they mentioned about her traveling the world, and I was like, I don't know if going to TNA is
like that kind of when you leave WWE, you travel the world to wrestle. That's what they say.
Like, I don't remember her turning up in Stardom or Tokyo Joshi Pro. They weren't things that I remember seeing at any particular stage. Like, I think this is. I think it's kind of interesting because one of the stories I was going to say is that they are going to be signing Julia. That's someone who's going to be coming in, but that's post WrestleMania. I'd imagine that to be the case, and there'll be various places that can put in. It's like the one area that they are kind of like hiring for. I imagine when Jordan Grace's contract comes due, they'll be straight in there. That there'll be some like kind of good words. But Naomi, she's back. She's at the level she kind of always was. Like I didn't view it as necessarily some sort of like sort of crushing in there. Like of her getting pinned first. Liv Morgan is Liv Morgan.
I was going to say that I don't get why they're protecting Liv so much. She was the last one to get through out the Rumble and the last one to get pinned in this on the slide. I don't get why they are protecting her so much. I've just never got it with Liv.
They had her beating Ronda Rousey for fuck's sakes. I mean, which just is daft as a statement to come out with there as well. Raquel Rodriguez, I'd say, I don't think she's come on. Like, I think that, there are hopes, but I just don't think she ultimately has it. There's still bits about her where she looks a bit big and just a bit clunky, and that's kind of where she is at this stage. And she'll just be like the kind of monster challenger of the month for whoever the women's champion is. If they want to throw a match on a pay-per-view, that'll be as far as she goes. But yeah, I think I'm expecting Becky Lynch to win the title of Mania. I think that's the direction.
That's a big call, that JP. That's a big one. That I like that. I think Rhea will win, but I like that, mate. That's a big call. That. So
I mean,
what are you for?
3 stars. I wouldn't go much. Yeah, I mean, that would be a
325 JP.
Yeah, I mean, we should talk. I mean, talk about the main event, not necessarily as a match, apart from one of the most brutal fucking table spot from Nia Jax when she threw Rhea Ripley onto there. But as you mentioned, it was the hometown coming there. That's who the crowd wanted to see. Monster pop, family in the front row, you know, Australia flag tied on there. There was an Aussie moment on there as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I thought to myself, like, this was, you know, for the most part, like, I thought this was pretty much shit, this match as the main event. Like, Nia Jax is fucking terrible. I mean, my first line of it was a match I saw. This was a match I saw, and I sat through it, and I went, I was like, Nia Jax, like Carly-esque in just like, you're big, therefore you're going to get a push every once in a while, and that's really where you're going to end up. But yeah, I can't say that I am remotely excited. Like, it was just so obvious for this one. I mean, it would have been hilarious for them to take the title off Rhea Ripley. Like, if Vince had been there still, like, that feels like the kind of decision that somehow he would have convinced himself would have been the right move.
It would have Michael's Bulldog getting it changed on the day, JP. Them. But no, you know what? I honestly think it was so smart, this booking though, JP. I said this on I think it was on Twitter. I said it. You didn't want to put like a Becky or a Bianca at this because you wanted that. I know Rhea would always get cheered no matter what over them, so you don't want to diminish Becky or Bianca there as a face. You wanted a natural heel to go up against Rhea Ripley in her home country. You needed that, number one. So Nia Jax ticked that box. Of course, she's not the greatest wrestler, but JP, she's so hated. Like, she's so hated. You could put it in there with anyone. And honestly, she could get anyone else who hasn't even been on telly over as a face because she's that hated that much. She really is. And she's not the greatest wrestler, but I didn't think this was dreadful. You know, it was 2.5 stars, JP, to 2.75 for the crowd and the emotion and stuff like that. But it was just a typical, Nia was on top for most of the match. You got your babyface comeback at the end. You had the big spot with the superplex into the riptide. I thought it was all right, JP. It wasn't as bad as people going on, for me anyway. And even Nia, where she hit that Samoan drop, as you say, and the table didn't break, she actually showed a bit of to actually jump on the chair, because I thought, she's definitely slipping on this commentary chair, Gareth. You know, it's on wheels. I'm thinking Nia Jax is going to fall right off this. But to be fair to her, she made that elbow drop, and it did look brutal, JP. So fair play to her for that. But like you've said there, it's a feel-good moment. It was a correct challenger to be at this show for the Rhea Ripley. And we move on to WrestleMania, bigger and better things, JP. That's my assessment.
Thank God we moved past that. We really did. I mean,
I'm just listening to you, and you're saying here like 2.5, 3, 3.5. I'm like, so this is worse than when worlds collide, then.
Less botches, Gareth. Very much less botches.
Fucking hell. I mean, this is the thing about this show. Like, to say that this show was being padded out, though. Like, you mentioned about the hour and 50 minutes comment on there. Which
I'm going to get that t-shirt made. I swear I am. I'm going to get that made for this podcast. I promise you.
If we thought about it, we would have gone for exactly an hour and 50 minutes tonight. We will end up going past that quite easily there as well. I mean, you know, we had loads of, obviously we mentioned this at the start of it, like, so many adverts for Western Australia. It looks fucking great. It's incredibly isolated as a city. If you're bored of Perth, you're fucked for a long time.
Have you been, Gareth? You must have been to Australia.
No, I've been to Australia, but I never do. I've been to Australia a few times, but never done West Coast. It's just it's not rugby league territory, so there's no point going. No point going West Coast.
Yeah. It is. It's like, you know, as Liam said earlier, it's the home of the Wacker. So that the home of Mitchell Marsh, which is a reference that neither of you two will get. It also was home for the Grayson Waller effect, as we should mention that the one time that we had kind of like we mentioned there was no Rock or Roman on this show. The Rock did send in like a pre-tape package, which I think they put on the kickoff show, wasn't it? Where he was like kind of...
The Rock did. Roman didn't. Yeah. Roman can't even be asked to in a video either.
No, Gareth. Roman put his on I think it was on SmackDown on the socials, where it's brilliant because they're leaning into it now. He was like panicking that he had to work the show. So he had to ask Heyman I'm not booked on this show, am I, wise man? And he was like, no. And he was like, thank God for that. So they're leaning into it now. I fucking love that. Fucking love it.
Did you love the Grayson Waller effect with him and Austin Theory in there with Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins?
You know what, JP? You know, I've been watching this for 25 years, these talk show segments. It was what it was. You know, yeah, Cody Rhodes and Seth.
22 minutes, mate, is what it fucking was.
Well, getting the big pops, JP, you know, we want the fans to get to see the stars. They got the entrances, they got to sing the song of Seth, they got to do the woe for Cody. So they got what they wanted. Got in there. You got Cody challenging The Rock, JP. That can't be dismissed. That can't be undersold. That was a big challenge. And we'll see what Dwayne says because he's on the next 3 SmackDowns, as we've mentioned. So hopefully we might get that night one. Or as I say, Seth did say like he's gonna be Cody's shield, didn't he, throughout all this? So let's see if it does turn into that tag match. But if we get the one-on-one, JP, I won't be grudged that at Mania Night 1. So thought it done okay. And you got the physicality at the end, and maybe they're leaning into Waller and Theory splitting up and having a match themselves. So, or maybe they just done that because it was Australia and stuff like that. But
I think they did it just because it was Australia, mate. I don't think there was anything more than that. I mean, seeing Austin Theory there, who just again, like, I just have no reaction to him whatsoever. Like him and it's almost feels like you could merge their faces together, him and Grayson Waller, in many ways, and you kind of effectively still have the same person. Like it's just.
I will say, JP, it's genius.
Create a pro wrestlers.
Putting them two with Logan Paul as a little unofficial stable. 3 of the most unlikable fellas you can ever come across. That is genius. Bit of booking that. But yeah.
It was just, it just was kind of nothing, really. That's how I felt about it. So I was like, right, this has gone on for ages. Like you said, the one kind of notable thing was the challenge to The Rock, which you would like to think that would be at a SummerSlam. That should be like the first person he takes on. Do that in a stadium. I think there's a lot of cachet to go for that. I think there's potentially some good promo battles you can have in the end. What the match ends up like, that'll be a kind of interested one on there.
JP, I was going to ask you that. Yeah, have you ever done? I can imagine you two have done one, JP, for sure.
I did do a thing in Gran Canaria where I had to drink a bottle of beer, and you had to put someone's sock over it and neck one of those. Horrible. I was a young man.
You ever done a shoey?
No, I never done a shoey. All this sounds like very rugby union. This,
mate, it's Mad Monday stuff. It's pure league doing shoeys, like that kind of stuff. Definitely, that's like they're Tuitu Avasa who does it. He was in the front row. Who's a UFC heavyweight, getting that TKO promotion, and more of which in a few minutes. So yeah, I think the only other match that we had left on there was we had for the tag team titles. So this is both Raw and SmackDown. The one time that you end up merging the titles together, we had the Judgment Day versus the Guilty Trap. Sorry, no, the New Cat Republic team.
Favorite tag team.
Pete Dunne and the 26-year-old Tyler Bate, of which I'm almost calling bullshit on that straight away. 26, my arse.
You know what, JP, I said before, though, I thought this was a good match. I thought it really was, considering it was just built on, the Dunne and Bate getting a little title shot after winning like a semi-final, final tournament they had. I thought this was a good match, and I thought it did get the fans into it by the end. You know what I mean? Because it did start off a bit cold. You had Dom riling the fans up at the start. Some heat, that man, JP. He doesn't have to get some heat. They're not piped in noises. That's genuine. That's genuine heat. And, you played into the match where always gets a pop, guys. Where the referee catches him, Gareth, like tripping up, gets on the apron, out, gets a big pop. And Dom's always going to be especially getting a big pop.
He was the highlight of this.
Yeah, JP, but I did thought the work was sound. But once again, I mean, I kind of did think they might have put the belts, but looking at it, Judgment Day were probably always going to win, and going on to drop the belts to Awesome Truth at WrestleMania, which once again I just can't get my head around that if that happens. I really can't.
Are they over as a tag team? Have they got a?
Not really. They've only been together a few weeks. Not really, Gareth. Like, it's not really, to be fair. The in-ring work does speak, and they are good wrestlers, aren't they? So they're trying that to get over. Like DIY on Raw at the minute, they're trying to get over with the in-ring work more than the actual characters. But we'll see how they get on. And as you guys have probably said, it's probably never going to happen, JP, don't you think, for these two as a tag team? No?
I don't think it's ever going to happen for them.
Yeah.
Like, really is. I mean, it's interesting that they always will like Pete Dunne.
Triple H loves him, doesn't he? He loves Pete
singles run. If they put the IC belt on a Chad Gable, for example, having him in matches with him, that would be like kind of an interesting direction to go in. I don't know if it's interesting enough for me to watch, like outside of being like kind of having to do if it was on like a pay-per-view. But I think the way I looked at this match, I thought this was like standard kind of big house show tag team match, like worked in the structure you would have expected to have, with the heels beating down on the baby faces, get like your kind of hot tag, and then they end up, the heels end up winning in the end. But
hey, JP, you're selling Gareth on this. I can see his ears prick up there, mate, when you're talking about good solid house show tag team matches.
It was all right. I'd go 3 stars and nothing else. Like, they're challenging my inner Benno here for like professional wrestlers. Professional wrestlers having a professional wrestling match. Yeah, there's a few people talk about like that in a little bit.
Trust me, I my fucking ears aren't pricking up when Finn Balor's wrestling and Frank Gallagher's on the other side.
Fucking hell. So yeah, that was it. I mean, there was a pre-show match that they had.
I didn't see that, JP. To be fair, I didn't, because I woke up. I set my alarm for 9:30, and because I've obviously been getting up these days at like 7 o'clock for work. JP, 9:30 was like a mega lie-in for me, and I was still knackered. So I stayed in bed till about 10 to 10, and then rolled out the bed, made a cup of tea, and threw it on.
What did you miss? You missed. We got Indy Hartwell on the card. The end. Yeah. Bronson Reed was going to be on there, except his wife had to give birth early, so obviously went into like an early labor. So much bigger things in there at the same time. So we have, that's it. We're on the road to WrestleMania, and in terms of the actual official amount of matches that have been announced for Mania at this point, we've got a grand total of 4 that are officially there in the books. We've suggested obviously some of the other stuff that might be happening.
Jimmy and Jay is you might as well add that to the card. Yeah. That's going to happen, that one for sure.
Well, this is the thing. This is what we're going to be getting over these next kind of couple of weeks, is all of that kind of padding out there as well. So we've got Roman and Cody, Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, and Io Sky Bailey. There was never any way the Kabuki Warriors were going to be dropping the tag belts.
No, never, JP. Never.
God knows what they're going to be doing with it on there as well. But I mean, I suppose, it's going to be, we're going to have Dwayne all over the telly. Next 3 SmackDowns?
Next 3 SmackDowns, JP. Hopefully, once again, I said this when I was fine with, I expected his promo when he joined the Bloodline. That was fine. Let's move along now. Let's not just have talking. Let's have, actual angles. Let's have some physicality. Yeah. Let's have something happening more now. I get that because he joined and it was a big deal. Let's move along now. Let's not just have it samey every week.
You'll be the whole, we've gone through the Elimination Chamber, and there's a reason why they do shows like that. And we mentioned this before. It's all about the money. That's why they got Dwayne involved. That's why he's all over the place. Well, do you want to hear? They've had their mentioned it earlier on. They've done their full year for 2023. They've got their financial reports. Gareth, you'll be loving this on here. These are just the WWE stats. I'm leaving the other ones off there, the UFC. Although it has led, I think in total to, was it 1.7? Was it 1.7 billion? Like in the end, in terms of like the revenue increasing, I think in total there. Each premium live event had set a viewership record on there as well. They increased on Peacock 25% and 22% compared to the prior year. The live event average attendance, Matty, do you want to have a guess what the percentage increase it was in that?
Percentage increase? It's got to be like a quarter, JP, or 20% to 25, or am I going too high there? Gareth, you're the percentage guy, mate. Help me out. Am I aiming too high there?
Well, if it goes in line with the other stuff, you'd have to guess that it would be in that region.
34%.
Bloody hell.
Which is pretty astounding. All of this on the back of, obviously, a $5 billion deal with Netflix as well on there. So that was like the kind of, in total, they say their revenue has increased to 1.7 billion. They are like at this stage, they're not hemorrhaging cash. They are fucking absolutely raking it in hence doing 52,000. Again, calling bullshit on that. I think the bit behind me, you can see there were some wide open spaces on that ice rink, as Gareth said, at Optus Stadium earlier on in there as well. This is, this is the, this is kind of like interesting. I know we've just had a note here from Chris Elliott in the chat as well that there was a question about NXT Europe, and none of the TKO reps seem to know what it is, and they have to bring Nick Khan out of the dugout to handle this one. Is one on there?
That's never going to happen. Did we say this on the likely unlikely? I think I said that it'll never ever happen. NXT Europe.
Not happening. Not happening. They don't need to. They just need to bring the main brand over. Like, why would you bother?
NXT's getting decent attendances, JP, for their little PLEs, aren't they? They're getting like over 5,000 for them, so they're gradually on the up again. So yeah, let's see what happens with that.
Get those on there. They got like 70 million coming in a year from CW for that. That's the thing with them. The bastards are making cash hand over fist. So that's where we were with the financials there at this point. There has been a story that's been added on in terms of the MLW settlement. And I know Eddie had referenced it there in the chat as well. Apparently, do you want to know how much the settlement was for MLW for the antitrust lawsuit?
Gareth, I wouldn't even don't know what to hazard against here.
What do you reckon, Gareth?
$100.
Apparently, 20 million.
20 million?
If you're Court Bauer, mate, just say this.
Court Bauer's walked away with 20 million.
Sleeve wrestling. This is good as it gets, mate. It's like you're a gambling addict and you've won massive on the fruities and you've had that big win. Walk away. This is as good as it gets.
He can pay you for that MLW podcast now, JP.
Mate, after in our brief communications, he was very well aware of what I said about the Von Erichs. He was like, yeah, this is dead in the fucking water. And then in that case, there was like 20 million. Fuck me, happily do that. I mean, I don't know. Will that be the end of MLW? It won't be the only time MLW gets brought up in this show, inexplicably in there as well. But that is, I tell you what, there'll be a fucking press release, as Andy mentions there in the chat.
I was going to say.
That is definitely something that's going to be happening there. Absolutely incredible. Much like you'll be amazed to know. Guess who signed for WWE? Yeah. Well, we've got the post WrestleMania lull. That's sorted out. It's going to be massive because Tama Tonga, by all accounts, has signed, according to all kind of reputable reports on there.
Shares and Greg's just gone up in Liverpool. Benno's seeing Tama Tonga every Monday night.
Exactly.
Is he going to be on the main roster, JP, or is he going to NXT? That's the big question.
Mate, you know what he's getting involved in. He doesn't appear on the Mahjong board at the TED Talk that The Rock did in Las Vegas, but there is a fair chance that he is that he's going to be. He must be coming in as part of that storyline. It makes complete sense. He's the perfect kind of bloke who's to play fourth fiddle in a stable, really. I wouldn't have necessarily any issue with that. And I won't have to watch him on a week-to-week basis. And hopefully he won't be wrestling that much. But yeah, that feels like the place where you put him in there as well. I just think that's it for Benno for the MLW story that he put into the document on here as well for us. I'm very impressed with that.
Well, you're the Samoan expert, Matty. So where do you see him fitting into the storyline?
As JP alluded to, he's by association, JP, isn't he? Because you can always lean into Haku, was Rikishi's old friend and tag team partner, wasn't he? So you can have him coming in as friend of the family.
And he's hard, so he can't upset him.
But JP, whether Roman wins or loses at WrestleMania, anyway, I think there will be an injection of new characters into this storyline. Jacob Fatu's got to come in after Mania. I mean, is it just me hoping for this, or he's actually a free agent, is he? I know he's doing GCW and stuff over Mania weekend, isn't he? But get him signed, and one of the Fatu lads who he's tagging up with the
Zilla.
Push up Samoan Spike doing the rounds on Twitter. Great cracking finishing tag team move that. And Tama Tonga, fitting right in, JP, you know. Yeah. It needs a bit, even for me to say, I know the Rock's in there now, but post-Mania, especially if what I hope will happen is the way people are saying the Rock's going to turn on Roman. Yeah, I think it will. But they do a Ron Simmons in the Nation. the all batter Roman, and they have Roman the babyface, and keep your heels like Solo, Tamatonga, Jake and Fatu. You can have Roman take time off, come back as that babyface that the people like.
Take time off.
No, listen a minute. Wait, that goes without saying.
You basically say retire.
Selling injuries this time. Actually selling injuries, not just taking time off events. And then you can even play into down the line, Gareth. Him and Jay as babyfaces, reconciling JP and Jay forgiving him and all that kind of stuff. And you can go with them back together against the new heels of the bloodline. Solo,
and then they can turn on each other again, and then they can be friends again.
This is what we want, Gareth. This is what I want anyway, my friend. But let's see what happens. But JP, yeah, Tamatonga, I know you've never been a fan, mate. I know he's in. I know Benno hasn't.
Shit.
He got that standing ovation, though, JP, on New Japan, didn't he? He got that farewell.
I was in your call where people were chanting God and stuff, and I was just like, I'm not fucking doing that. Just I don't want to lie to myself necessarily about that. I've never been a fan. I even thought, that song they were going to come out to is great, and then when I actually listened to it on Spotify, I was like, no, you've even.
I like that one, JP. I like the new one. I like that a lot.
It's all right. It doesn't stand up to a whole load of repeat listening. That would be the issue that I would have on that. But yeah, that's the place you put him in there as well. And I think that's pretty much. Unless there's anything else you want to mention, I'm in terms of Raw, I don't think there was anything that there was no sort of like massive happenings from Raw, was there?
It's Cody JP now, isn't it? Showing that fire. Obviously, he got slapped by The Rock. He challenged him, and then we got them beating up security guards and the like on Raw. So he's actually showing that fire now going into WrestleMania. He's not just, what do we want to talk about? Happy to be there. He's actually showing that he's obviously deadly serious to finish this story. Hopefully it never finishes, JP, and we have
pulling an emotional smile as people talk about how great his dad is. Yeah.
Let's move this along now. We started well on Raw with Cody. Let's have some interaction with The Rock and Roman and Cody and Seth. Let's have a bit of physicality, some good actual pro wrestling angles I'm hoping for in the lead up to WrestleMania. So hopefully that happens, JP.
And speaking of moving along, I think, where do we go to next? Because this is where we have to confess. Gareth, obviously, more than welcome to sit around for these bits, because I think I'm the only person who's seen any of TNA, which was only the main event that I watched on there. And I did, unfortunately, my sins, watch far too much New Japan. So I think for these, it'd be more probably like kind of general discussion topics if you want us to go through those as we kind of going into the home stretch here, lads. Where do you want to start off first?
I reckon you tell us about New Japan, JP. I'm dying to hear your thoughts on it.
Fuck me.
You're looking forward to this, Gareth?
It's going to reel me right back in.
Mate, it is. I was watching this, right? And first of all, I was just annoyed I'd spent time. And it's mainly day one, which obviously Benno went through the results of this, the weekend show, but it was actually the show where stuff was kind of happening. I looked at the top two matches on day two and their new beginning in Sapporo shows. I'd seen the clips of Okada kissing the ring, so I just didn't give a fuck, basically. And it was, I just thought to myself here, God, this feels like I just thought, why is Gedo in place? Like, really, I just thought how far they have fallen in this time. Okada's leaving New Japan, and it feels like there was no buzz to his last couple of matches. Normally, this is like big things in Japan. They would have had like some big shows and everything else. Nah. Instead, we had a Sonata Naito match that I just went, I'm not watching that. That's half an hour of my life I'm not getting back. I can, as I say with a lot of these matches, you can imagine in your head what the match is like, and it will probably have been slightly worse than that. So don't bother.
Fresh matchup, that one as well.
Yeah, fresh, clean matchup there for that one on there as well at the same time. We already used the title of Gedo Wenger before, and that would have been...
I haven't heard that one,
because it's that point of someone who was great, who's like well past it. Well, fuck me. It makes Wenger look like he quit too soon at this stage, because it feels like he's leading them into relegations at this point, like downright into relegation battles. That's where he kind of is at this stage on here. So, I think for this, like, it's shit creative. Like, in terms of the day one, the big matches, I had to see Nick Nemeth, like just to see what he was like on here at the same time. As Andy mentions, Elise Arsene Wenger plays some kids. We're not even getting that. We're getting like cast-offs from WWE.
How's Ziggler getting on, JP? I haven't seen
Well,
nothing.
he's the global heavyweight champion.
That's the
Basically,
IC, though. I think I asked that. Is that the IC?
Basically, yeah. It's almost like they shouldn't have got rid of the IC title, merged it with the world heavyweight title, completely ruined the lineage of that, just to appease a Kota Ibushi run, which was a bust anyway, because he's not really that great, Kota Ibushi. So where do we end up at this stage? We have to go the long way round into having this belt somehow being created, of which you go to all the trouble of David Finlay managing to get the win at Wrestle Kingdom to become the champion, to then lose the belt a month later to Dolph Ziggler on this show in the main event.
He beat Moxley and Ospreay as well, didn't he? Freeway. And then loses to Ziggler. Yeah. I mean, that's just gold. That's gold.
Ziggler and Dave Finlay going 25 minutes. Fucking hell. Talk about me.
Are you glad you finished the app, Gareth?
Fucking right, mate. It's one of these that I look at when I look at these cards and look at some of these matches, and I just think like fucking hell, like I'd have been there up every morning, fucking smashing these into a spreadsheet and putting them into an app. Like, fuck, who cares?
Well, I didn't care. I'll tell you that much. You have to deal with New Japan World because obviously, naturally enough, this was down as season 11, episode 11, I think. But whatever the fuck that means on the app. Like, at least now I worked out how to get the English commentary, of which it was kind of much more of the same. Crowd at points in this. You talk about Dynamite crowds being silent and being small on here. The crowd were silent at points. It felt like they were completely silent, particularly around some of the finishes here. To give Nick Nemeth his due, it was a professional wrestling match. It's kind of what you would necessarily expect. Yeah. That's kind of all it was. It didn't shit the bed as some of the stuff on the card actively did. I just thought, this is bad. Looking at you, evil Shota Umino, which again, I wondered why I was watching it. I just thought, just to see how bad this is, just to see like what depths are they at this moment in time. I mean, I've put the belt on Nick Nemeth, like for like the purposes now he's being challenged by Tanahashi, who lost to Matt Riddle earlier, like in 8 minutes, to lose the TV title as well. That was the semi-main in there. And like, it really, they've been building Finlay for all of this time, someone who, by the way, couldn't even get in a G1 about 2 years ago. That was a story they were running. And like, all of a sudden, like, he's like positioned as their top foreign heel. Like, you just think, fuck me, you're in desperate straits here. If that's where we've got to at this stage. It was largely in front of silence with Finlay on top. He wins. Nick Nemeth ends up winning, and it was just like he cut a somewhat impassioned promo after the match. Nothing that made you think, Dolph Ziggler, yep. All that buzz about it when he leaves WWE, how good is he going to be? Going to be bang average. I think we all kind of knew that.
So he didn't show the world.
No, he didn't show me at all. I didn't see his match against Steve Macklin in TNA, where no doubt he'll win the title off Moose. At this point,
I'm looking forward to him and Macklin, to be fair. I thought he built that up on telly. All right, that hasn't happened yet, has it? That's coming because he's in Japan at the minute. No, I think it hasn't because he's in Japan. They're holding off, aren't they? But who's JP? You interest me there. Who's doing commentary these days on Japan English commentary?
It's Chris Charlton, who I'm with Benno on this one. He should just be the translator, and he fills in historical gaps, doing what Tenay would have done. Like in these scenarios, a Tenay who could speak Japanese, and instead it isn't. Like, he's doing like color commentary. He's got Walker Stewart with him, who's so young. I want to say he's like 21 or 22.
I've never heard of him.
Has some potential. Like, he's a really young guy, but at the same time, he speaks in commentator speak at the moment, and that's the problem. Is he hasn't kind of found his voice at all. So it's very nondescript commentary. We're not really missing it, and just a series of weird fucking decisions, like almost throughout the show. Like, mentioned about Okada there, his last match, what was he involved in? He's involved in like a multi-man match. And he's like, pinning Callum Newman, for God's sakes. like in that as well. Should that be the moments, like some of the moments you take away with Okada being there as well? There's no one he's put over in there at the same time. Great O'Khan had his title out there, almost challenged him to a King of Pro Wrestling. It's like, well, that's not a match that's going to be happening. You know, he has said, like, it was one of the stories I noted in the run sheet. He said that he's going to be, he's hopefully never coming back to New Japan, which, like, he didn't say it in like kind of an overly dramatic way. He's like, well, hopefully it all goes so well, I won't ever be coming back. And it's like, you'll be there at Wrestle Kingdom, mate. That'd be part of the fucking deal. You'll be there at Wrestle Kingdom. Yota Tsuji had done some like kind of like shooty promo on him. It's like a bit late, isn't it now? Could have really done this about like, you know, I don't know, done it at fucking Wrestle Kingdom or just after Wrestle Kingdom. That's where we could have had this kind of stuff. But no, didn't have that at all. So it feels like that's been like a waste as much in terms of Okada. They had the junior heavyweight title, like Show won it on a count out because Ren Narita came out from under the ring, choking out Despy, who didn't look in great shape. I have to say, for a guy who normally looks like pretty tremendous, and I've been advocating for him working in the heavyweights for years, as he should have been, him and Hiromu, and there's neither of them are in the fucking New Japan Cup, which is just a field of fucking scrubs, and Jack Perry's in there as well to fucking boot.
I've seen that.
I saw that Hiromu lost to Dookie. Did you watch that?
That was from the day. No, so the day 2 stuff. I was so depressed after the day 1. I looked at that and I went, "Nah, bollocks to this. Bollocks to this. No, not watching that. That just looks like time I'm never getting back on there." And yeah, like I say,
sounds
headline
rough,
like
JP, to be fair. Like, I mean,
it is rough.
Like, it just sounds really rough. That
I mean, people are saying Elimination Chamber is rough. No, this is rough. This is properly rough because this is watching something that was like we're talking 7 years ago was the best company in the world by far, like hands down. It was a big part of the reason why people were getting back into professional wrestling, and obviously the reason why AEW kind of came into existence. The idea that you could have something else, and there would be enough people who'd be interested in it from the West, who wanted to see great wrestling, and you're not even getting that. You're getting bang average stuff. You're getting a Tanahashi should be thinking about retirement, and instead we're talking about him being pushed up the card, which is just mental fucking behavior.
He's the new Booker, JP. It's standard, isn't it? You push yourself. It's been decades, Gareth, in it, wrestling for you.
But the junior match had loads of interference. Then the Never Open Weight match had it with Evil. I'll probably expect him to win the New Japan Cup. Why? Because we have to be beholden to fucking LIJ fucking folklore all of the way, which means, obviously he has to challenge Naito. Why? Because he was an LIJ. And it just needs someone to go, lads, this is fucking shit. Right, let's fucking go. Just get rid of the people. It's almost just like start from scratch. Because like you think about Forbidden, yeah.
It does just feel like now it just needs totally freshened up from like a booking perspective. They just need to pick like 4 lads and go like, right, we're gonna, work hard to establish some new people to push up the card. And when you look at, obviously when you look at the booking over the last couple of years and you look at some of the more things that have been a bit more sort of like interference led and things that you say in there, when you look at some of the way that some of the factions have then bled into it with the evolution of Bullet Club and things like that, with certain people not been there to, I suppose, fill the mantle. It does just feel like there was almost this shift to try and like westernize the product in some ways and make it more like Western booking in a lot of ways, which ironically has turned off the West, or a lot of the West, because that's not what they watch New Japan for. They watched it for the elite gold standard in-ring wrestling product, isn't it? That was well booked, but it was like heavily about the the big matches happening in the ring, and not having some of the all the I think when we were like getting into that territory is where we were still watching every match in the G1, and then the volume of them that were just like interference and just shonky decisions and things like that, and you're just like what are we doing here? But they've not managed to fucking turn that ship around at all, have they? Because I think I always try and maintain an open mind with them, that I will dip in like every few months in the sort of like hope that I'll put a show on and be like, oh, I hope it's getting good again, kind of thing. But it never is. I'm almost like wanting it to be. I'm almost like willing it in my brain, trying to sort of manifest it to be turning the tide. I think I tried to convince myself that with some of the young lions that came through with over, your Naritas and your Yamuras and things like that. I was kind of like hoping, okay, these are the guys who are going to come through and just like lead that next generation. I guess they still might, but they definitely need some sort of different fucking booking logic behind it to make that happen. Definitely.
How long has he been doing the job for? And you just think the well has run dry. Like, if for the good of himself, he needs to be kind of taken out of the firing line. I mean, I know that a lot of the blame goes for like a lot of the interference stuff from Dick Togo as well. And it's just like, well, and you can't argue, since he's been there, that's what he does. He chokes people out with the piano. It's the same stuff that they were doing pre-pandemic, they're doing now. And they just, it's just, I don't want to watch it. It's that fucking bad. And anything interesting, any breaking up of the stables, any pushing Hiromu as a heavyweight, which at least would have a novelty value. I'm not mad on the idea of Hiromu, but fuck me, it's something different. You're not getting that. You're not getting any of that stuff whatsoever. They had a women's title match on the show. It's Maya Iwatani. He's got a film coming out about her this year in Japan. You think they'd be plugging that? Nah, it's fifth from the top. Her and Mina Shirakawa. They had the best match out of, I thought, all of these on the show that I saw on there. It was decent enough. And I'm saying about best match, I'm probably saying about 3.25. That's the level we're at. And this was the fucking match quality promotion. This was the promotion where you think, oh, some really like good stuff on here. It doesn't mean fuck all, the title. It doesn't mean anything to them. It's a really desperate state of affairs. And I don't know what it was in terms of like the crowd and everything else, because I think when we had Karen on, she had explained that, Sapporo, it's like the island of Hokkaido, so they don't go there very often, so they're going to do somewhat of a better crowd. Obviously, you had the Okada thing there as well, but where they go afterwards, like you say, they had a Yota Tsuji and Yu Yamura have a hair versus hair match on day 2. That's sort of come out of nowhere. Like, that's like, what is this? That's not the things that got them to the place where they were. They did it through just like clear, I say like storytelling. It was like excellent matches with logical booking where wins and losses mattered and people made their way up the cards. And now they've just fallen into a horrible rut that they don't know how to get out of. And they need some stark changes. Otherwise, they're kind of, they're fucked. I can't see what good is going to be happening there. And as I mentioned about the New Japan Cup bracket in there as well. Like in there's no Nick Nemeth who's won a title, no Matt Riddle who's won a title. So it feels like their focus is probably more about, we're going to have these guys on the Windy City Riot show, and they're going to have him on the what is it, the show they're doing in California as well at the Toyota Arena, which is a big arena that they've only sold 2,000 tickets for. Classic Dynamite fashion, Matty. You'll be happy to.
Good house that.
It is. It's a cracking episode of Dynamite, that one. And that's the best show they've done all year, is the US one, where there was so many people who aren't. It wasn't what you'd say is traditional New Japan. It was just the people that they've got access to in the States, with some people from AEW as well. But you look at the New Japan Cup, and it almost feels like the option that you think they should go in, which is, all right, just go with Zack Sabre Jr., have him win the New Japan Cup, and then have him win the title. Because that, at least, it feels like you might get some halfway decent matches out of it as well. But who wouldn't be surprised if fucking Sonada won it for reasons? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, not for any good reasons, not for because I think that'd be a thing that happened, but it feels like the kind of decision that they'd fucking make at this stage. It's so desperate. And it's like they've got Jack Perry in there, which normally would have been like sort of contentious point. And I'm just like, fuck it. Just put him in there. Why not? It won't make them care anymore, but why not? And knock yourselves out, lads. Go fucking batshit. Adding in someone like that in there as well. So yeah, that's the New Japan stuff. I hope it was as miserable a rant as you would have expected, because the approximately 2 hours of watching time that I put into that was not time well spent. and I could have spent the time, I don't know, picking nose hair, doing something like that. That could have been a lot more use of my time in that. So yeah, unless anyone's got any more comments, we'll get into the very final stretch here of TNA, mate, which all I saw was the main event, of which I could probably sum it up in in about sort of 25 seconds. What do you reckon?
Mate. Go on.
Mustafa Ali is a professional wrestler who had, and Benno had said this, 3.25 stars against Chris Sabin. Yeah, not wrong. Pretty much exactly what it was. The idea that this bloke was somehow going to be, I think the gimmick's terrible. Like him coming out as if he's like running for president. It's just, he's a fucking professional wrestler. Have him come out like he did at Rev Pro, just wearing his fucking jacket. And this match, in many ways, I thought it was pretty much exactly the same as the Robbie X match that I saw at Crystal Palace. Maybe the Robbie X match was a little bit better. And again, wasn't high on that at all. He's kind of bang average. Anyone who thinks in their head, like this guy would somehow like turn it round in like AEW, it's like, nah, he shouldn't go anywhere near that. He beat Chris Sabin to win the X Division Championship. That was the main event. The good hands were getting involved. You'll love it, Matty. Like, what the fuck was it, mate? It was bloody. It was just so absolutely.
I'm shocked
bang.
That was the main event, JP. To be honest, when you said main event, I thought you meant it was Shelley and Moose. I'm shocked that actually went on last.
Yeah, didn't see that. That's third from the top then, a no surrender match.
Yeah, I'm shocked at that. But I just say, JP, like, I'm not just picking on Ali, but you always hear like people like in WWE, oh, they should be used more. Sometimes when they do leave, the grass isn't greener and they're not as good as the hype up to be, JP. And I don't mind Ali, like, and I'd like to see what he does, but it's very rare that you go and it's not everyone anyway that's trapped in WWE, as they say, that like can go on and be such a big star. So yeah, we'll see what he does. I will check him out though, JP. I will check this here. I just didn't have time this week. This shoot job I've got, mate. It's taking up all the hours, mate. I'm not like yourself indulging in New Japan, JP.
Well, in some ways, this is the level that New Japan are at. It feels like a TNA level. And actually, I didn't mention it before, but Matt Riddle's defending the television title on MLW Intimidation Games against Bad Dude Tito. Like, that's the level that New Japan title's been defending on MLW. The newly minted MLW, I'd assume. I mean, a fucking diamond, and it was like the $1 million belt, like probably of course.
Let me bring a Goldberg out, won't you? MLW paying him all kinds of stuff.
Oh, we'll all watch
that.
Mate, goes fucking batshit for that. When you got PCO versus Con on there, I'm not watching that.
I name dropped you on the weekend show for that. I said we need JP here for that. Why was that match even on some sort of big show, JP, in 2024? No, seriously. No, we need to be serious now sometimes. Who in the right mind has thought that should be on this event and people will want to see this? Why fucking awful?
Which leads, I mean, let's face it, this stuff would have been happening if Scott D'Amore had been in charge as well.
Yeah, he loved PCO and Con, didn't he?
But it's amazing because I think when we watched and reviewed Hard to Kill, which again wasn't like a bad show, it very much fell into the line of what TNA shows are like. But you could at least see some kind of momentum and things like that, and had a direction, had a very clear figurehead of who's in charge. You kind of thought, well, actually being run somewhat sensibly. And then they basically saw the wrestling world and all the other kind of various stories happening. It's like, right, we need to go into hold my beer mode, don't we? In terms of like, how can we steal the headlines as the daftest promotion of the week? I don't know. We'll get rid of D'Amore. Why? Reasons. And wanted to buy the company by all accounts, like 10 million. And I think, to quote Benno, why don't you just start up your own fucking professional wrestling company? If you get access to 10 million, then in that case, it's tape libraries and the rest of it. But the only people who can make value of those tape libraries really are WWE at this point. AEW don't even have the capacity to. They've got a fucking Ring of Honor tape library. Don't do anything with it. Like, do you know what I mean? It's the Scott D'Amore story. I mean, what do you guys think about it? I mean, Gareth, I haven't heard your thoughts on it, but it's just like, it's fucking madness.
Well, immediately your first reaction was something dodgy had gone on in the backstage. You know, I haven't followed it closely enough to know. I'm assuming that's not the case, kind of thing, based on what you're saying there. But I think the wrestlers were certainly rolling out in support, weren't they? Which again isn't necessarily a sign of anything being supported by wrestlers. But I think the odd thing just seems to be that if there isn't anything shady to it, it just seems odd, because it did feel like it was gaining a bit of momentum and a bit of traction, and like it was actually like you say, while I'm not tuning into the TV every week, whenever there's a pay-per-view, I'm probably watching 60% of them, kind of thing, which is 60% compared to none. And then when you look at the crowd engagement and things like that, you look at people talking about it, it felt like it had a bit more where people were talking about it, and that it not been lol TNA, it being kind of like, he's a company who's actually putting on good shows with good booking on the quiet. And all right, there's two things here that are shit or laughable, but actually there's good stuff going on in the card here, where they've over a number of years built up people who've since moved on and maybe gone to better things as well, sort of thing. But it just seems like they had that bit of stability there and a bit of sort of logic and consistency, which for TNA the words logic and consistency is like fucking something completely out of left field. Even like looking at this, I'm looking at this card and thinking there's still stuff here that I'd actually want to watch and check out, like that ABC Grizzled Young Veterans match. I definitely want to go and watch that, because there's two fucking tag teams that I love, and it's like tag team wrestling there that they're going to give it the time and focus and things like that on TNA. It's wild if it's purely sort of like a business decision or a class of personalities decision or something like that. It just seems very, very odd timing, and to do it in a way where you maybe don't necessarily have that forward continuity plan in place or things like that beyond Tommy Dreamer, which is never the best plan in anyone's book, that one.
Gareth, I think you're saying there that Josh Alexander v Simon Grimm match screams you that, mate.
Well, to be fair, I was listening to the show and you were like laughing about that like 2 weeks ago, and I was thinking that sounds like it'd be all right. I've seen it. I've seen him have a couple of decent matches in MLW. Simon Grimm or Gotch, whichever persona he's going with there. Like he's got some working boots in there that he can pull out, and Alexander's always going to be good to a decent enough level. I'm sure if we're talking about WWE shows been good with 2.5 or 3-star matches on it, I'm sure Josh Alexander and Simon Gotch pulled out something better than that.
That's a fair shout, actually. It would end up being the best show, best match on When Worlds Collide. That would have been. Bring it back onto that, but yeah, I mean, it's there's been a few kind of news notes as well. I mean, like obviously they had a like apparently according to PW Insider, they're saying that there was like morale was very high, in there as well, and there was going to be a talent meeting at the TV taping with Anthem executives, including Len Asper. That was a story that had kind of come out there as well. So I mean, and there was a few notes that kind of like came out on there as well, that apparently that they are open to feedback from the roster in there as well. And they don't, that apparently for a lot of the talent, they don't really want to abandon what's going on. This is all according to Fightful Select in there as well. At the same time, they're hoping that D'Amore would return, but that's not probably going to be happening at all anytime soon unless things go to hell in there. And it's going to be interesting to see. It's really contract renewal season when that comes about, because obviously there's a lot of people in TNA, they're not on like long multi-year deals. I mean, Josh Alexander had like his option taken up for another year, which feels like in football terms the kind of thing you do if you want to get a transfer fee for a player who doesn't want to be there in the first place. Is you just you have an option and you try and get rid. But like we don't have transfer fees in wrestling, because fuck knows what anyone would actually be worth. It does feel like that when the chance comes, people are going to go. Now, quite where they go to and what the landscape is at that point in time, because one of the big bugbears was them wanting to spend a few more quid on TNA. Is that something that's going to be happening? Are they going to be spending extra money on there? Like, it feels like we're going to be lapsing into usual TNA. You're going to have the likes of basically busted open radio booking TNA. So it's going to be filled with just daft shit. Like, you just know that that's going to be the case. We're going to have a lot of fucking dumb nonsense, really, aren't we? And people are going to go, yeah, maybe at this point, gone as far as I can do a TNA. You can have that little rehabilitation, have those kind of good matches. But even someone like Josh Alexander, anyway, should be looking on the open market. He's done his stint in TNA. I think the same even with like a Macklin. It's what kind of place because they go to, because you'd think in an alternate unit, if New Japan had the head screwed on, you go, there's a fresh face seen in Japan, can deliver in ring. Why don't we go with him?
Both of them instead of Nick Kenneth and Matt Riddle.
Yeah,
those two would have been a better. They're an
have their working boots on.
If them two showed up in New Japan, Steve Macklin and Josh Alexander, I'd be more open to watching it than if it's obviously fucking Matt Riddle, but like 43-year-old Dolph Ziggler as well, kind of thing. It's those are two lads that just like definitely would have felt like they were bringing something different. But if they're not happy, really, there's not as many places for them to go, is there? And earn money as there was on this old Courts. Flashing the cash.
Wow. That's it. Well, I mean, and I didn't mention this really with the Matt Riddle Tanner match in terms of Matt Riddle himself. It looks like, and I was thinking about this before, even if you kind of discount the kind of the clouds that loom over him as a person and like parts of his career, someone who felt like he'd been going through the motions for quite a while. It's just sort of, this is the pattern he's in. Those idea of those kind of big work rate matches are the things that kind of brought him really to prominence. Not getting those, I don't think you're going to get that there. I think with the Josh Alexander and a Steve Macklin, what you'd get them is putting a shift in, because I think it'd really matter to them. I think they would give a fuck and they would work hard, because they're the things that have been kind of synonymous with whether the Josh Alexander title reign or someone like Steve Macklin getting better and moving up the card was because he worked fucking hard and he did shit. And I think that was the thing that you kind of went, oh no, there's something about this bloke. Like, he seems to actually care. He's not just a guy who's left WWE developmental and doesn't give a fuck. So, yeah.
Japanese crowds would like those two as well. The way they work, the effort they put in, and things like that. And like, but it's one for our EWR games. That one.
It is. So we got got a couple of minutes left for, I think, 3 hours is a good point to end this. This is including the pre-show, obviously. Where if you want to get more of that, you can go to patreon.com/.
JP, we've officially on the main show gone longer than when Worlds Collide as well. So a lot of callback to that show.
I don't think at the same star level as well, but got a couple of stories. We mentioned it there in the pre-show as well. I suppose one of the biggest stories is, and I'll go to you, Gareth, on this one first up. Ollie Anderson, aka Alan Rogowski, dies at 81. This is the guy who obviously is probably most famous as a part of the Four Horsemen, obviously with his good old brother on, not really his brother. Him being there, obviously being lead booker as well in the NWA at that point in time. I mean, any particular thoughts on old Ole Anderson?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those where he's like, I think he's it within the modern wrestling world. I think his influence is probably like understated, to some degree, because he rubbed up a lot of people the wrong way with his his stubborn, straight head kind of
tunnel
thing.
Vision, Gareth, wasn't it?
That's it. Yeah, like he had his lane and he was going to stick to it. Yeah. But in terms of like what he was involved with on screen and behind the scenes, during that time period in like the 1980s and things, he's somebody who was like massively influential, really, in sort of the alternative wrestling at that time, and obviously been like a big part of the Four Horsemen on screen. Is somebody who in the modern modern world, he almost feels like a bit of an afterthought, really, sort of thing. When because of the relationships and bridges that he broke and things like that, and because of history getting rewritten and things like that along the way in different areas, it almost seems like his prominence in certain areas was scaled back. But again, for a lot of negativity that people can cite about him, there's a lot of sort of like positive influence and things that he definitely brought to the table. And it's sort of, it almost feels like it kind of should be more important and will probably get less fanfare than other people who've died in recent times who may be less influential than Ole Anderson.
Yeah. Matty, you were a big fan of his voice as well, weren't you, mate?
Mate, the Black Scorpion, JP, one of our most talked about angles on this network, JP, and obviously the Shockmaster as well on there. And as Gareth said, though, he is, he's left his mark on the wrestling industry 100%. And everyone's got an Ole Anderson story, JP. How many shoot interviews have you watched over the years? And it's one of the main questions that gets asked, and people have always got a story. And as Gareth said, and I agreed with him, he had that tunnel vision. And that rubbed people up the wrong way, JP. But, fair play to him for sticking to his guns, for good or bad. But got to respect that in the wrestling business, Gareth, I think.
The Roy Keane of wrestling booking. Ole Anderson, really, isn't he? Roy Anderson. He's actually a Swedish filmmaker, but anyway, I digress from that. But yeah, that was, obviously he's always famous as well for that line that was used for him. The line that he said, was it to Vince and Linda, which is quite prescient now in hindsight, like "fuck you and fuck your wife," doesn't he? He said to Vince famously. So it would explain why he wasn't inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame.
Don't forget, JP, he said he'd rather set fire to the master tapes with it than sell them to Vince as well, didn't he? On one of his interviews. So
good lad.
Yeah. Well, you just look at it, and you look at him, and you just look at the impact that like McMahon had on him as you go into sort of like your wrestling history, and you think about like championship wrestling from Georgia and things like that at that time, like as Vince is going national and stuff like that. You are going to hold these grudges, aren't you? Kind of thing, like you have had your fucking nose, massively put out a joint and things like that. And there's a part of me that thinks, well, like fair fucks, because all these people who went against the WWE and then end up just lying down and going back and things like that, or just selling out and selling the souls and things like that. There's that element to him that you think, fair fucks, mate.
Yeah. Couple of other quick news stories before we all jump out of here. Child prodigy John Tenter has got he's going to be the premiere episode of season 5 of Dark Side of the Ring. That's this time next week, approximately March 5th. That's going to be on there. He passed at just 42 for that. He's 3 years younger than us, is how he looked at the end.
What's dark about John Tenter? I can't
it's
think
paper
of
round, mate.
Yeah, to be honest, Gareth, I agree. I haven't looked into this season as much, but a few of the names to me jumped out, like they're clinging on a bit here. Like, unless we've missed stories that like they've actually found here, I'm not too sure about that.
I was thinking, what don't I know about him? Like,
maybe
that falls into this.
Maybe
this
it's just a sad early passing, but it was illness, really, JP, as well. It wasn't like a murder or anything like that, was it? But maybe we'll find out next week.
That's what. In terms of the other topics I've got on here, I don't know if any of these catch your fancy. Chris Adams, Sensational Sherry,
Chris Adams will be dark, JP, won't he?
Oh yes,
Chris Adams will be dark.
Yeah, he'll be another blow in Texas kind of fucking deal for that, and none of the Dicky Tummy bollocks as well. Terry Gordy, which I think will be a cracker, like potential one, very sad one as well. Black Saturday, which I'm really intrigued, which ties in for Ole Anderson as well. Chris Colt, no idea who that is. He'll be like that Canadian bloke who robbed fucking banks that was in the last one. Sandman is there. Harley Race
on there, JP.
Jimmy Fullington's getting an episode. Who will do? Get crucifixes and everything going on there. Him on a building site while on the piss. Sounds very much like my dad's mates in the early 80s, but I digress. Harley Race, Buff Bagwell, and our good friend Ed. Good old Eddie Leslie, Brutus Beefcake.
Oh, Benno's favourite to be made up.
Benno will be gender with that one, yeah.
One of the lads I went to school with told me he never lost on there. And it's like in many ways he never did he? Just by being mates with the Hulkster. He'll be all over that because he was all over the last year, wasn't he? He was all over the Marty Jannetty episode, him and his wife. Oh, he's fucking loving it. He was being on there.
There's some good ones there, like Chris Adams. That'll be good. Sherry will be good. Like
Gordy, that'll be
Gordy
good.
It'll be good. Black Saturday. It all depends on the talking heads that they get at the end of the day, isn't it? Like a lot of these shows, they're sort of they're defined positively or negatively by the people that they've got talking about it. Joel's, like you say, or Jimmy Fullington. That should be an interesting one as well there. So
he's still here to tell the tale, JP, Jimmy, isn't he? He's still here to be on there talking about it. He's looking well, really. I've seen him
incredibly.
He looks very, very well.
Keith Richards-esque, isn't he, old Jimmy Fullington? It all depends on the talking heads. And if you can get a Cornet and history mode rather than Cornet and bullshit merchant mode, that's where you get him on Black Saturday. Would be fascinating for him to talk about.
Yeah,
like if you can get him in serious mode for it, but quite often that's not really where the cash is in that grift, is it these days? Final story, and it's just I'm just going to read you out the headline more than anything else. Hulk Hogan, head of Paramount, told me you're going to be my next John Wayne. Discuss. There's bullshit and there is fucking bullshit. And I say this as someone, we've sat through Double Terry on the Film Club, which you can listen to on the GRAPPL Patreon as well. You weren't going to be the next John Wayne. Wasn't the best of actors, but fuck me, like
no, Jamie, that's killed me.
He didn't have time. Didn't have time to do. Too busy playing bass for Metallica to jump on a horse.
Yeah, here it is. He met Bob Evans, who you might remember. He was the guy in charge of Paramount, and there he took me into his office. That's a lie. There was a big picture of all with Clint Eastwood and John Wayne and all the big stars, Dustin Hoffman, everybody that was part of the contract players for Paramount. He said, "You're going to be my next John Wayne." Didn't happen. Then he laid out the schedule and was expected of me on and off camera. I went, I'm the wrong guy for that stuff, particularly because you're having the conversation with yourself in your fucking head. That's probably why. I just decided to go back to wrestling. Wrestling in inverted commas, he says. In there as well. Oh, what a place to wrap up. A bit of Terry bullshit on there.
Oh, God.
Which takes us to the end.
We made it, lads. We made it.
We did. We made it without Benno somehow, didn't we?
We did. And I thought it went well, JP. You've done a cracking job hosting and steadying the ship there, JP. You're like that caretaker manager that comes in, Gareth, to the end of the season. He keeps you up. You don't get relegated.
I'm Ronnie Moran, mate. Is that how I am?
Ray Lewington.
Gus Hiddink at Chelsea, JP. I was thinking.
I'll take that. I'll happily take Gus Hiddink comparisons with all of that as well. And then thank you to those of you who stayed along.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, thank you.
Listening to this as well. Like we say as well, you announced it at the start of the show, Gareth. You've got you made your dealer's choice. It's absolute belting choice of Cody Rhodes in AEW.
I cannot wait, honestly. Like, I've been piecing together all the clips, and I'm proper excited. It's even made me excited for WrestleMania. I want to see him win the big one at Mania now. Of
course you do.
I'm in a very Cody brain mode at the minute after piecing this together. But now it's just going to be class. Just like you say, modern history, but still history sort of thing. It feels a world apart to where we are now, even kind of looking at some of this stuff. So I think there's going to be some good chat, and love getting you to sit down and watch some AEW for 3 hours, Matty.
No, you know what I was going to say, Gareth? At least it's guaranteed like 1080 quality screen, JP, not like that AAA like tracking on the YouTube. At least it's fresh quality. But no, it will, Gareth. Really looking forward to that.
It's the proper 6th generation experience that you would have got with
no adverts mid-patch.
Yeah, I like that show, to be fair. Channel 45 and Channel 28 on them.
Oh, yeah. On Rogers Cable. Fucking, I needed to know that's what was going on in November 94. If you do want to hear that, that's obviously on the Patreon as well as the other dealers' choices that we've had for this month, which are a couple of absolutely outstanding shows in your selection of the story of the Hollywood Rock and Benno's Big Match Jim, the ultimate mixtape about the Ultimate Warrior, and like in terms of one of the best big match wrestlers in the world, dare I say it, which is a terrifying statistic. And I would certainly say definitely better than Steven Regal. Definitely better. Steven/William Regal. Like, not even a fucking
Darren
comparison.
Matthews. That's what we want to call him.
Exactly. Old Daz. Right. I think that's it. I think my voice is all ready to conk out. Probably the internet will at some point as well. So nobody's got anything else to say. All I've got to say is bye.
See ya.
Ta-da.